On today's special episode of Homeworthy, we're exploring the captivating world of Moody decor and the designers who bring it to life. We'll begin in Gainesville, Georgia, where interior designer Maggie Griffin shares her Moody Tudor-style home, blending traditional furnishings, contemporary artwork, and animal print fabrics. Next, we'll head to Pittsburgh, where interior designer and YouTuber Kiva Brent creates a luxurious, moody space, showing us how to achieve a high-end look on a budget. In North Carolina, interior designer Windsor Dalton transforms his home into a stunning oasis with earthy tones, sculptural pieces, and striking art. Finally, we'll visit Los Angeles, where Jenn Feldman blends masculine and feminine energies in her beautifully renovated 1937 colonial. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Maggie, and welcome to my Georgia home.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maggie Griffin. I am an interior designer here in Gainesville, Georgia. So our house is a Tudor-style home that we designed with an Atlanta architect, Greg Bush. We started the process back in 2021, and we're really able to be super hands-on on all of the things that we wanted for our family. We have 3 boys, so our house is 5 bedrooms and 6 baths. We were able to design it in a way that really suits the way that we like to live. And to me, that's my favorite part about our house. It's comfortable for myself, my husband, and our 3 boys. We found out that we were pregnant with our 3rd during the building process. So we were able to, during the framing portion of our build, add in a nursery for our baby, who is almost a year old now. So this is a new build, so we were able to design it from scratch with our architect. When we started the process with him, we sat down and we had a priority list of all the things that we wanted for our home. One of which was our children to have their own bedrooms and bathrooms. We wanted a large kitchen to give us space to entertain with our family and friends. Our kids really wanted a playroom as well, and then we wanted adequate spaces to entertain outside. We have beautiful fall weather here in Georgia. I hope that it's around the corner for us. So we were really excited to add a big porch for us outside that I think we can stay, outside a lot during the winter months too. It's right off of our pool area. So the kids all summer long have been in the pool and out, and we eat outside, and it has just been so wonderful to be able to give that to our kids. And it's been a really busy summer with all of the neighborhood kids coming over, but it was a great addition to our house. Welcome to our foyer. Here in our home, this space is right off of the front of the house, and it's a small space that kind of introduces you to the style of our home. We have a great, beautiful archway here that kind of ties into our Tudor vibe. And I love that we incorporated some of the moldings that, to me, remind me of that Tudor style without being too dark or heavy. So right off of the foyer, we have our study. This space is very cozy to me, and I loved the thought of a space that was, again, cozy and kind of moody, like the Tudor style, but also sort of our modern interpretation of that. We are a family of 5. We have 3 young boys, and I didn't want anything in our home to feel too precious or unapproachable, but wanted everything to feel cozy and comfortable. So this space is, again, right off of the foyer of our home, and in here we have comfy seating for my husband. He loves to nap here on the weekends. If one of our children just needs a minute by themselves, my middle child usually will come in here and just take a beat. But then I find myself too coming in this space at nighttime if I need to read something for school for the boys or check a couple of emails over the weekend. But it has been such a cozy spot for us. And again, it is smaller, so I feel like it's been great for the kids to use too. So I chose the color Deep Olive for the walls in this room because I loved the moody vibe that it gave. The fabric on the window treatments is a fabric that I had been wanting to use forever. And so I pulled that beautiful kind of olive green color from the drapery fabric. It's one of my favorite beautiful hand-blocked linens from Lee Joffa, and it incorporates a lot of these moody colors that you'll see throughout our house. I've incorporated a lot of our artwork in this space too that is several different styles. That's my favorite thing to do, is to mix styles. And so even here I've got, you know, a beautiful print that belonged to my mother-in-law. I've got a lovely painting of New Orleans that I bought from a street artist. And then I have this fun kind of chinois watercolor as well that I actually have a pair of, because what's better than one? A pair. And then I pulled in lots of contemporary things too. Even though the room to me feels very traditional, we have lots of moldings on the walls. We've got the deep color and leather, but I also love incorporating cleaner lines to mix with some of my more traditional pieces. So the burl tables on each end of the sofa to me are a fun little contemporary sleek vibe. I love a Parsons style. And then these great lamps from Visual Comforts that seem to move all over my house because I love them so much. So when I was choosing the sofa fabric for this particular room, I was really excited to go a little bit more bold on my color choice. And I found this beautiful paprika colored velvet and added a great bullion trim around the bottom of the sofa. To me, it speaks very much to my traditional heart, but I also love that it feels modern and classic at the same time. So the items on my coffee table are changing all the time. Right now I have a collection of books, several of which I've been featured in, and then also some pieces that I've picked up on our travels. We've got this beautiful oyster shell that came from Florida from a recent trip. We just took a beautiful silver dish that belonged to my mother-in-law, and then a hydrangea arrangement because we are in the height of hydrangea season here in Georgia. They are everywhere and they are beautiful. Right here near the hearth of our study is this little Chinese chair that I love anything chinois. You're going to see a lot of that around the house. I actually have a set of 6 of these, so they're kind of dispersed all over, but a friend of mine just sent me this adorable needlepoint pillow. It says, "The best things in life are free and the second best are very expensive." And I just thought that that was the cutest thing she sent me. She knows me very, very well. I love a little touch of animal print. So in this room we have a great antelope rug, and it's one of my favorite things to use, especially with kids in the house, because the spots are, you know, a great way to disguise things. If something did happen, then a little spot just becomes another spot. But one of my favorite pieces in the whole room is the painting above the fireplace. And I love a little contemporary vibe. I think that it adds a lot of depth to the room, but it also keeps things from feeling too serious. And then of course, a couple of built-in bookshelves house lots of our treasures. My husband and I both love to read, and so, you know, I love a collection of books. We have tons of coffee table books around, but we love novels, and this is a lot of those that we just kind of have moved from house to house, but also incorporating, like I said, a lot of our treasures. I have some really talented friends who are artists, and this is one of my friends. Her name is Leanne O'Brien. She's painted some beautiful watercolors for me. You'll see these are some shells from a couple of trips of ours recently to Florida. And then a lot of things that I've just kind of picked up along the way or inherited. This beautiful little wooden dish was something that was my mother-in-law's, and I just think that's so sweet and special. But then also, this is something I've just picked up at Home Goods. So I like to mix things in my home, and you know, this is an antique biscuit jar, but also we've got a little Home Goods find and then an inherited piece. So when I chose the color for this particular room, I wanted the space to feel very cozy. And so I did opt to paint the ceiling as well. And you can see there's a tongue and groove on our ceiling that is painted the same color as our walls and the moldings. But how I did want that to kind of be, this room to be its own space. So I love that I incorporated that ceiling color here, but to me, it just makes it feel like its own room. Each room should feel like an experience of its own. And so I did not do that in other places in the house, but I will show you a couple more where I did. So growing up, I grew up in a small town in middle Georgia. It was an agriculturally based city, and we drove really out of town for everything. So my mom and my two grandmothers, they loved creating a home. They loved, changing things around, decorating. And so we would drive to the big city of Atlanta to go shopping pretty regularly, and they always took me along, whether that was to see show houses, to shop for antiques, to meet with their decorator. And it was something that just sort of was instilled in me really early on. I had, of course, like most little girls, I had an outside playhouse that I would spend days, all day long in, hours. And I would rearrange it, and I would just, do these little creative things to kind of make it a home for myself. And then I also had, the Barbie dollhouse, and I had a Victorian dollhouse. And it was just something that I could spend hours doing. I loved it. I loved setting up a house. I loved changing things. I loved decorating for, a season or setting a table. And so as time went on, it was something that I shadowed a local designer in high school. And then when I went to the University of Georgia, I decided that I wanted to pursue a degree in psychology. So I zipped through that major, and I looked up and I said, oh my goodness, I don't know that I want to do this forever. I don't know that I really want to hear about other people's problems. And so I decided to add on a major in furnishings and interiors. And guess what? I still listen to people's problems, but it's in a way that I can help them fix, and nurture the way that they want to live with their family. My psychology degree has been so instrumental in my career, and over time my business grew. I went from doing, small projects with friends and family into kind of our building boom that has recently, in Georgia, we've had a huge building boom in the past 10 years, and especially in the area that I live, it's growing. We have industry coming here, and we also have a giant second home market that's very nearby to where I am. We're in the North Georgia mountains, so we're close to mountain homes, we're close to second lake homes, but we're also not very far from beaches. And so certainly during, the pandemic years, the second home market just really exploded for us. So now that you guys have seen our study, I would like to show you our dining room that's on the other side of our foyer. The centerpiece of this room is a beautiful English reproduction table. It's a reproduction antique, and I love the oval shape because I can squeeze so many people around this table. Right now it's set for 6, but I've had as many as 12 around this table. So it's a space that we can have our supper club over, but we also spend a lot of time in this room building Legos, as you can see over here. These are some of my son's treasures, and so I told him that he could leave them out. I think they're very impressive. This is one of our newer ones, and so I told him that it was okay to leave those out for the shoot. This particular piece is another piece that belonged to my mother-in-law, and it's filled with silver that came from my grandmother's, my mom, my mother-in-law, and I love that it's got this beautiful fretwork detail here on the glass doors, and so I can see everything that's inside of it, and I can pull and I move things around our house. I just love that so much. And over this particular piece is a contemporary painting. It's a modern abstract by a friend of mine. Her name is Allison James, and she and I grew up together, and she is very talented. But as you can see, over that painting is a beautiful painting by my son Henry. He did, it's a pastel of Starry Night, and I love that he can see that it's important to me to have that in this room too. This piece also belonged to my mother-in-law, and I love that I have so many pieces around our home that remind me and my husband of her. It was in their dining room for his whole life, and it holds a lot of things, and I love that you can see it right when you walk into our home. But on here are 2 lamps that I found secondhand. I got them for a steal, and then I put a nice new pleated shade on those. So again, I love to mix things in my home, but to me, the most standout thing in our dining room is the beautiful mural on the walls. It's a chinoiserie mural that I chose from Schumacher, and believe it or not, it was one of the last pieces I chose for our house. And I think that it was something that I wanted to do a mural in this room, but it was something I was really wrestling with, finding the right one. And when I came across this one, it had just gone into production, and it really pulled all of the colors together that we have used in our home. I love that it felt like a warm hug when you walked in here, the dark brown background with some of the shades of salmon pink and the teals. I just love the way that it gave this room a feel of an escape, but also kept things really cozy. One of my other favorite things in this room are my pair of built-in china cabinets. They're on either side of our front window, and I am a collector. I love to collect antique china, I love linens, I love flatware, and so this was a great way for me to store all of those items that I love to collect, but also they were kind of hidden. I love playing with tablescapes. I love looking into my napkin drawers and figuring out, okay, let's use this great looking cocktail napkin for this party, and let's set the table with this one. So all of these are chock full of all of my things that I love to set my tables with. So of course I love my blue and white, and I reach for this set quite often. It's nothing fine, but I have a set of 24 of these plates, which is wonderful when hosting a big group. I keep all my blue and white here on our bottom shelf because it's probably the set that I grab the most. But one of my other favorite sets are my mother-in-law and father-in-law's wedding china. It's a beautiful pattern that I haven't run across very often, but it's got this gorgeous kind of seafoam green around the border with a touch of gold and white. And it's really one of my favorite things to mix with my more formal china that is by Moody. And I just thought that this was the most beautiful combination. And I love the history of using something that belonged to my in-laws. If we are hosting a dinner party, my go-to is usually a meat that my husband can grill, and then I'll do something like a fresh seasonal salad, and then usually something like a pasta on the side. We always have, cheese and charcuterie out for our guests when they come, but to me, it's so much more about being together. And so if we're hosting a dinner party, sometimes I'll even just order pizza, but we make it feel special by using our nice china and our nice linens. These chairs are so comfortable, and it's really important to me, especially in my own home, but I also encourage my clients to have a chair around your dining table that encourages your guests to stay for a little while, to linger around the table. And so I love that these have a nice upholstered back, they have an upholstered seat, and I've always loved a slipper chair look. But I will let you in on a little secret. These are from World Market. I bought them for a steal ages and ages ago and have had them recovered several times. But to me, the frame was great, and I still loved the scale of the chair. The seat is nice and wide, and so, again, kind of mixing high-low. It's what I could do at the time, but now they're covered in this beautiful kind of apricot velvet, and I think that they look so great with our wallpaper. So coming from our dining room, you enter into our bar area, which I love that it's so close to the dining space because of proximity while we're entertaining, but it also houses my barware collection. So behind our glass doors, we have all of our barware. We've got our champagne coupes, our stemmed wine glasses, our stemless. I love that it's just all right here for when I'm setting my tables. We have a sink in this space too, which I'm big on having a sink in any space that you can, especially when you are entertaining and you have all these dishes at the end of the night. But one of our favorite things we incorporated into this space are a pair of dishwasher drawers, because at the end of any dinner party, we always had all of these wine glasses that needed to be hand washed or we'd have to wait. So having a pair of these dishwasher drawers right here has been so convenient. It's right beside our ice maker, which has been so great too, especially filling up sports bottles for our boys and coolers for the weekend. But then we also have this great wine fridge. It houses white and red, and then underneath is a pair of refrigerator drawers, which has been great for things like our seltzer waters and just LaCroix and all the things that we can tell our guests, hey, go grab that from the wet bar. It's right there. My favorite thing about my home is that we were able to design it specifically for us. I loved that my two oldest boys, who are now 10 and almost 7, were very vocal about things that they wanted in our house. They wanted a playroom, they wanted space for their friends to come over, they wanted certain aspects of their rooms to be incorporated, and also they really, really wanted the pool. I love that we were able to really take those little nuggets from them and then from houses that my husband and I have had over the past 15 years of our marriage. You know, this was our first new build together, but we have renovated several houses. I think we're at maybe 9 together with second homes and with primary residences. So he and I had a wish list of things that we love from that house here and love from that house there. And so I love that we were able to incorporate all of those things into this one home for us. I had a glass front pocket door for my pantry in a house that we had a couple of years ago, and it was one of my favorite things. I loved that you could kind of see through the glass, but also, you know, we could hide messes around the corner. But we chose this beautiful white oak door to slide back so that when we are entertaining, this space can be open. When we were designing this house, this room was probably what gave me the most sleepless nights. I really labored over all of the spaces, the cabinetry in this room. I wanted a place for all of my things. So you'll see we've got food storage here. I've got my vase storage, my cookbooks, and then this wall from of entertaining supplies too. That is really one of my favorite ways to start a table. You've seen where I pull my linens and then my china, but then here I've got all of my glassware that's not associated with my bar in one place. So these are the water glasses, the juice glasses, things that have been gifted to me over the years and things that I've picked up along the way. One of my favorite sets is this set of little juice glasses that my best friend has been living in Germany for the past 4 years, and she sent this to me as a gift a few holiday seasons ago. One of my other favorite sets is this great looking set from Bunny Williams that looks like tortoise ware, and to me it just adds such a great texture and color to a tabletop. Another favorite set are these fun little chinoiserie water glasses that have this great little pagoda on them. I think they add such a little touch of whimsy onto a tabletop too. But this is a great place for me to start a color scheme, you know, when I'm pulling for my tabletop pieces. I love, you know, you can see I have a lot of this beautiful shade of turquoise and aqua. It's one of my favorite colors to use on a tabletop. But then in this particular room, I also incorporated another set of, this is a refrigerator drawer that's got bottled waters, and then this is a freezer drawer for all of the neighborhood children who come in needing a snack in the afternoons. I have a large vase collection. Arranging flowers is something that is almost like therapy to me. I love arranging flowers. It's one of my favorite things to do. I love pulling things from the yard. Most everything that's here in our home right now did just come from, you know, either my house or a neighbor's house. And I love just pulling things that are green, and I can just, go outside and gather some clippings and make just a beautiful arrangement. This is one of my favorite vases. I bought this in a museum shop last summer in New York. I love museum shops because they always have quirky little things that you don't find in any other place, but I just thought this was so beautiful, and it's quite heavy. Mercury glass has always been a favorite of mine too, because it adds a little sparkle to a table, and I find myself using it a lot during the holiday season. These vases back here belong to my husband's grandmother, who I knew my whole life, and I think they're so sweet. It's amazing that they've survived all of this time, but they have this beautiful little etched flower on them, and so they're great for something that's a couple of stems. Tulips look really pretty in these. And so I have the two taller ones, and then this small one too that's got this great little etching on it. The artwork in this room are really some of my most treasured pieces in our house. In this corner, you can see I've got these fun little acrylic boxes that I had made for several of the pieces that have been handed down to us. So up at the top, that is it's a paddle for making homemade pasta that we got on a trip to Italy a couple of years ago with our boys. And then the fun little oil painting is something I picked up from an antique mall. And then we've got two biscuit cutters, one that belonged to my husband's grandmother, which I just think is so sweet and special, and this one belonged to my husband's mom. I had a local framer build the acrylic boxes for me because they are treasures to me and really just tell a story of the generations of women in our family who have really taught us so much about how to create a home. This other piece is my oldest son Henry's little corn husk doll that I just thought was so sweet. He made that at school, and I wanted him to know that it meant a lot to me. Now that you've seen our working pantry, you then go through this small vestibule and into our mudroom, which was a huge necessity for us when we were building and designing this house. With 3 boys and my husband and I, we just needed a place where we could come in the back door at the end of the day and put our things away. As a mom, I needed the organization. So we designed these large lockers, and each one of us in the house has one. So we've got a big locker with some great hooks inside of it, sports equipment, all the things that we can grab on our way out the door, backpacks, and then everyone has their own drawer where they can stow away their shoes at the end of the day, and hopefully it stays neat for me. This was also a room where I needed to have a desk space. So in order to help my kids with their homework in the afternoons, write a quick note. So everything else was designed with that in mind. And then I also keep little craft supplies readily available for the kids too. Welcome to our kitchen. This room is truly the heart of our home, and we are in this space all the time. My husband and I are both cooks, so this room was really important to us when we were planning all the different things that we like to cook, how we like to function in the kitchen, but it also, I wanted it to have some of those little Tudor nods like I've been talking about around our house. So one of those was choosing the darker color for the cabinets. I chose this really interesting layered grayish that to me kind of looks like a cool shade of mushroom gray with a little green, some brown. And then I mixed it with the antique brass hardware, which is one of my favorite ways to keep things feeling warm and still kind of fresh and modern. So in this space, we chose a large range because we both love to cook on gas. And then we hid all of our other appliances behind cabinet panels. So over here we have our large refrigerator where we have all of our produce and all of the things that we use to prepare our meals. And then we kind of tucked away our freezer over here behind another cabinet panel. I wanted a huge island so that we could all sit here together, and this is really where we share most of our family meals. I chose a hardworking quartzite for the countertops because to me it looks like marble, but it doesn't have all of the maintenance that marble requires. And then I chose a different quartzite in a darker finish for the perimeter cabinets. They are both leathered, so that means that they're not shiny. And I love that I don't have to worry about spills or staining or any of those things like you would with any other natural stone on the countertops. A big sink was a must-have for us, and then we also incorporated 2 dishwashers. We cook a lot, so we always have dirty dishes, and this is truly a lifesaver for us. So right off of our kitchen is our family room. These were 2 spaces that I wanted to feel like they were one space, but also I could have some friends around our island, and then we could also have friends here over in the Fireplace area. So this is one big space that allows us to have lots of people here at once, and everyone kind of has some elbow room. So over here, I designed 2 different sitting areas inside of one larger sitting area. This has been my favorite arrangement that I have ever done in any of our houses with our furniture. So right here, I have a cozier little spot with a sofa and 2 chairs and its own coffee table. And then right here in front of the fireplace is another sitting area. So it allows you to have 2 conversations perhaps going on at once, or it allows you to have a lot of people in one room and everyone has a comfortable place to sit. So we're really looking forward to the colder months that are coming up so that we can turn on our fireplaces and we can kind of gather here when it's too cold to be outside. So in this room, I did a large, almost wall-to-wall jute rug. And again, I layered an older Ushak on top of it for that kind of lovely texture that comes from the old rug and the new rug. And it gives each space kind of its defined area. Over here towards the fireplace, I've got a pair of leather chairs that are just wonderful because they keep looking more and more handsome the more and more worn in that they get. And then I have this old large bench that was my grandmother's that I had recovered in this cool Suzani that I found years and years ago. To me, it adds in a little bit more of that global look that I am such a fan of, but it gives you a little pop of color in the room that's a little bit more unexpected. Above the fireplace, we have another art TV, which I just love because I can put the screensaver on. It's got this beautiful piece of art up here. It's got the wood frame that ties in with the white oak bookcases on either side of the hearth. So these 2 art pieces mean a lot to my family and I. They are commissions from my friend and artist. Her name is Emily Osier. They are interpretations of photographs that were taken at our family farm. And so I love them because she's an impressionistic style artist, but they are something that means so much to me and my family. This one is a view looking out over the cotton fields that surround my grandmother's house. And then this one is a view of our pond where we have spent so many times over the course of my life fishing, and I love that I'm able to take my children back to these 2 places and show them where I grew up to, and that our family farm is such a special place to us. Before I show you the primary suite, I have a couple of other things I'd like to share with you. One of them is this beautiful pagoda-style china cabinet that's here off of the entryway of our home. And right now it's housing a lot of my blue and white collection. I love blue and white. I think it's it's a neutral to me, and it just reminds me of all of the beautiful blue and white pieces that my mom and my grandmothers had when I was growing up. This pagoda-style china cabinet is something that I've had forever. It's one of my favorite pieces in the house, and I just keep moving it from house to house. And it's flanked by this pair of Chippendale wingback chairs that, again, I keep moving whenever we move and renovate and build, and I just keep painting them a new color depending on where they land in my house. So on the way to the powder room, you pass this little vignette. Again, this is one of my mother-in-law's pieces, and it's really one of my favorite things that I have of hers. It's this beautiful tall chest. To me, it's classic and very timeless. And then, of course, it has my sweet boy's portraits above it. This is my Samuel, and then this is Henry. And then, of course, I'll need to do one for the baby when the time comes. But I also have this beautiful sketch of my dad here that my friend Miss Wendy Arnold did for me, and it's really one of my most treasured things I have. We've got a fun little picture of our dog, Miss Clementine, and then one of our family pictures, one of our first as a family of 5. So I love this one. This is Joe Malone. It's the wood, sage, and sea salt candle. I'm gonna need to find a replacement soon though, because I burn it all the time. Tucked under our stairs is our powder room. And I love a formal powder room because it gives you a little moment to create a little bit of a jewel box vibe. This one, I was so excited to use a wallpaper that I had been wanting to use forever. It is Graffito by Kelly Wearstler, and I think that it's the most fun kind of unexpected touch for my gallery wall here. I've got lots of pieces that were family things, but also some contemporary art and some of my talented friends who have gifted me things along the way. One of my tips for creating a gallery wall of art is to really consider your space. So in this one, I kind of ended up putting together a lot of portraits. You'll see that I've got portraits of some things that were passed down to us, and then some more contemporary art. But then also, if you're just kind of wanting to create, say, a beautiful gallery wall over a sofa in a living room, consider color and subject matter and even your frame choices. I love grouping things that are related but not necessarily matching. So, for instance, I've done for clients and myself a group of landscapes. I think that's always a fun touch, things that you find along the way. Maybe it's from an antique mall, maybe there's some contemporary pieces thrown in, but I love the thought of a gallery wall really telling your story about who you are and the things that you love in your own home. Now that you've seen the powder room, I'd love to show you the most relaxing space in the house, the primary suite. When you're entering the primary suite, you pass through this beautiful paneled vestibule. This was something that I really wanted to give a little bit of that Tudor nod to our home. It's paneled in this beautiful white oak, and my builder did this for me. He has amazing craftsmanship. And so I loved that this space was kind of its own little moment when you're coming down the hallway into the primary suite. But when we were building our house, I really analyzed every little inch and where we could do some clever storage. And so he knew that this was important to me, and he designed me this amazing little wrapping station here that to me has been so convenient for me to wrap a quick gift when I'm headed out the door. So it looks like beautiful paneling, but when you open up the doors, we've got space for all of the things that I need. Tissue paper, ribbons, boxes, and then I even have this wonderful wrapping ledge that allows me to wrap something really easily, but then just close it all back up, and just like that, it looks like the paneling again. So our bedroom, I wanted it to be a little bit more feminine and a little bit softer. I believe that bedrooms should feel like a retreat. And in this particular space, I really feel like I'm in the treetops. You can see out of the windows, we have beautiful trees around us, but then we surrounded ourselves in this awesome mural by Schumacher. It was a new colorway of an old pattern, and it was something I really, really wanted in this house. So with the mural as my more standout feature of the room, I didn't want it to feel too sweet or too girly. So I chose this great bold color for all of the trim in the room. You can see the coffered ceiling, the baseboards, the door frames are all painted this fun color called Deep Pewter by Benjamin Moore. I love that it was a color that I pulled from the mural, and it kept things from just feeling too sweet. So I did a big wall-to-wall jute rug in here, but I layered it with an old Ushak that I've had forever. That's one of my favorite things to do, is to layer old rugs over a natural fiber. I love the texture, and I love bringing in, again, some of that old mixed with the new. Or when I was planning this room, I had wanted this bamboo bed forever. So this is the Bunny Williams bamboo bed, and I just think it's the most beautiful thing. It's got the beautiful bamboo detail on the sides and on the slats, and I think that it just really warms up the space and gives a little nod to that chinoiserie look that I love so much. On either side of the big window, I've got some of my most meaningful art. So these are pieces that are really sentimental to me. And I've got a beautiful watercolor that belonged to my mother-in-law that was found at just a little hole in the wall antique mall in South Georgia. And then this is my husband's boutonniere from when we got married 15 years ago. And I had it framed, I kept it forever, and to me it just means a lot to have it in our space. And then this is just a little sketch of my parents' home, which, you know, we all love going to. And to me, these are just really more sentimental pieces that I've pulled into our bedroom. These slipper chairs I have had for over 20 years. These are some of the pieces that I bought when I went off to college. They are sturdy, they're big, they were very well made, and so I just had a little slip cover made for these to kind of change up the look, which is a really easy thing to do instead of having them completely reupholstered. I love the little check detail, I love the contrast piping, and again, these are really versatile because I can face them towards each other, my kids can push them together, or I can turn them to kind of give me a whole new look. Again, in any room, I love a little bit of animal print. So I brought in this great needlepoint cheetah print here on a bench at the foot of our bed, which is a great place for us to pile all of our pillows at the end of the day. On my bed, I mixed in several different things. I've got this beautiful dohar that's from Mila and Rome here, folded at the end of our bed. And then I've got, you know, one of my favorite matlezes that I've had for years. And then some beautiful Matug linens for Schumacher as my pillowcases. I love that it's not so matchy-matchy, that it's more collected. And I think that it just kind of adds a little bit more to the mix in this room. This is a king-size bed, which may look quite long, but it's been great, and at night we can all pile in here and watch a movie together. So over here I have a piece that again has just kind of moved with me throughout the years. I found this piece for the first time at an antique mall in Macon, Georgia, and I think my mom texted me a picture of it and was kind of like, you have to have this. And so I fell in love with it. It's an old, I believe, apothecary style cabinet. It's in 3 sections, so it comes apart, but it's got all of these little compartments and drawers and doors where you can store lots of different things. It was completely out of my price range, and I ended up making an offer that was not accepted, and then going back a couple of months later, and they were willing to come down on their price. So it was something that I just loved. I had never seen anything like it, and I just thought that it was such a beautifully detailed piece with the hinges, and we've got this beautiful old mirror here, and then it also gave me a perfect spot to tuck a couple more blue and white jars on top. These are a part of my enameled picture frame collection. I have quite a few of these that again belong to my mother-in-law, and she was a wonderful collector, and I have probably 30 pieces of these that were hers. So they're antique pieces, they're enamel, and I think they are just so much fun. I have them kind of scattered all over the house. So this is a room where I can really recharge. If I go missing at night and my boys or my husband are trying to find me, I'm typically in this space. I have turned into a total tub person. So I love, you know, at the end of the day, having this as just kind of my time. So we have this beautiful freestanding tub that's sort of the focal point of the room in front of this great set of windows. So I get all of this great natural light in here. My husband and I have separate vanities, and so when I was designing these, I wanted something that still felt warm, that kind of was a warm accent to all of the white marble in the space. So we each have our own vanity, and we've got white oak cabinets as our vanities, and then I chose an antique mirror over each sink to kind of, again, bring in that sort of antique look and add in a couple of older elements with all of the modern pieces of the room. I think it certainly can keep everyone in their own space. My husband probably would say more so than me that he is very happy that we have our own vanities. So I wanted to point out these great prints on either side of the tub niche. These are prints that my mom, they're antique prints that my mother brought back from England, and she had them kind of stowed away really for years. I remember running across them in a closet, and she would say a couple of different times over the years, "Oh, I'm gonna get those framed, I'll get those framed." Well, when we were building the house, she said, "Do you want to take those English prints with you?" And I said, "Yes." I thought they were just so sweet. And it means a lot to me that my parents brought them back from England with them on one of their trips. So that's what these two pieces are, this one and the one over on my side. I had them framed in a burl wood frame, which again, I love wood tones, and I love mixing wood tones. So I've got the burl wood frame here mixed with the white oak of the cabinetry. And then, like I showed you earlier, I have a set of 6 of these little chinoiserie chairs, and this is one of those too. This little bamboo chair that I have here tucked by the tub, where I can throw down the towel, I can lay my bathrobe, or the boys can put their pajamas while they're getting ready at night. So across from the tub and kind of around the corner from our large walk-in shower is a nice wall where we installed one of the Samsung Art TVs. I love these. These are a designer's dream because, you know, a TV is always kind of the eyesore of a room, but with these, you can have a custom frame put on them. I went with the white oak frame, and then any kind of artwork that you want on the TV. So it keeps it from looking like just your basic TV, but this is a place where I can come and take a bath, catch up on my show, and just have a little time for myself at the end of the day. So this is arguably the most feminine room in the house. This is Mom's closet. So I really wanted a place where I had intentional storage for all of my things so that getting out the door in the morning is just that much easier. So we designed a closet for me that has space for all of my things, but really the island in the middle of the room is by far my favorite piece of cabinetry in our home. It was designed by me, and it houses all of my jewelry, you know, seasonal items, so it just makes getting out the door in the mornings so much easier. So I'm no stranger to color and pattern. I love color and pattern, especially in my clothes. And you can see with all of my dresses, I love color, I love pattern, I love different styles of dresses. I'm probably more of a dress person than anything because it's just such an easy effort to selecting an outfit. And then, you know, now with all of my shoe display, I can just make that really easy when planning what I'm gonna wear. I love different colors and lengths of dresses. I've got a lot of, you know, pink and blue, but then I've got some really cool vintage pieces that I've had forever. So that's really one of my favorite go-tos, is just kind of my dresses, whether it's spring, summer, winter, or fall. So here in my closet, I have several things that are just really sentimental to me. And one of them is this DIY shadow box that I did myself a couple of years ago. And it houses some of the brooches that were either my mom, my grandmother's, or my mother-in-law's. So the brooch on the top is something that I had attached to my bouquet on my wedding day. It belonged to one of my grandmothers. And then the piece at the bottom, I remember my other grandmother, she would wear to church on Sundays. And then the 2 cameos, one belonged to my maternal grandmother and then to my great-grandmother. So they're just things that were sweet and special to me that I thought could be turned more into art instead of just hiding in the drawer. I'm about to give you a sneak peek of the kids' rooms upstairs, but first I wanted to show you one more little hidden spot in the house. So like I said earlier, utilizing every square inch, we created this adorable little hidden hideout for my kids under the stairs. It's got a jib door and the light comes on automatically, and the boys, they have all of their treasures here under the stairs where they can create their bracelets. I love that we have a little place to stash some toys too. This is my middle son Samuel's bedroom, and as you can tell, he is my dinosaur lover. He loves everything about dinosaurs. He knows how, when they were in existence, he knows the names of all of them, and so I wanted to give him a special place to have all of his dinosaurs on display so that he can get them down and play with them, but also these are his treasures. So we designed these sturdy white shelves so he was able to line up all of his dinosaurs, and he says they're just his favorite things in his room. So here in Samuel's room, not only does he just love dinosaurs, he loves all animals. So we've got animals everywhere. We've got, his stuffed animals, we've got Georgia bulldogs, we've got snakes on the bed. But one of my other favorite pieces of art in the house is this beautiful commission that my friend Elaine Burge did of his favorite dinosaur, which is an Allosaurus. And I think she did such a great job. She was so fun and cute. She said she'd never painted a dinosaur before, but I think she did a great job, and he absolutely loves it. Welcome to John Reese's nursery, one of the sweetest rooms that we have in the house. It was not on our original plan with our architect, but when I found out that he was on the way, we were able to shift a little bit of our roof line and add this little cozy room for him that really is just so sweet and special. This bed was also for Henry and Samuel, and I'm so glad that I kept it because it just means a lot to us. And the glider was also one that we used with the two of them, and so I love that he has a little bit of that history here in this room. But we also, did some blackout drapery in here so that he can sleep really well at night. And I chose a classic ticking stripe from Schumacher with this fun little pom-pom trim. And I think it just looks very sweet and whimsical for John Reese. Welcome to our outdoor space. This covered porch is where we spend a lot of time as a family. The boys have loved it all summer. We have grilled out here. We have hung out with our buddies. We have the TV on. It has just been so wonderful and was a big priority for us when we were designing our home. And it's right here off the pool, which we have used every day, multiple times a day, all summer long. We wanted a place that was an extension of the living areas of our house, but also really hard working for our boys and all of the neighborhood kids who have been here. We love having people here at our house. We chose a concrete paver for our pool surround, and then I chose a really dark pebble tech for the interior of the pool, which I have loved so much. We did a raised spa area, and then back on the corner, we did a little tanning ledge, which has been so great for our baby as he just loves to sit there and splash. Home to me is a space that is loving and warm and secure at the end of the day. I love coming home after picking up my boys from school, and we have everything's here and we're set up to live the way that we want to live. I love that we have things that we have brought with us from other homes and collected over time. I love being in this space and having things that were passed down to us from our grandmothers and our mothers. And so home to me is about the people that I share it with, but also about the walls that we're able to enjoy each other's company in.
Hello, my name is Kiva Brent and I'm an interior stylist based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're here in Steel City and I live in a condo here in Bloomfield, and my style is very modern and contemporary, and it's all about the art. The furniture comes second and the art is primary. I'll be completely honest, when it comes to how we chose this home, my wife chose it. And she chose it long before me, so I just kind of ended up here actually. If I had to choose a favorite room in my home, I think I would choose our living room, just because this is where we spend the most of our time and this is where we have the most amount of artwork. I truly believe that these two pieces behind me really got me into interior design in the first place, so that's why I love this space. So I would like to welcome you to our living room. That is really the heart of the home for us. And it's actually the first room I ever decorated in this space. And it really started with these art pieces back on the wall here. So this is one of my favorite artists, and you will see his artwork as we move throughout the home because I'm simply obsessed. It is by Tudor-style. And I have these two massive prints here. And I think that was kind of just like the start of designing my home and how I knew that I just wanted to kind of design around art, and all of the furniture is kind of a backdrop. So no matter how I rearrange my home, this artwork is always front and center. So we have a man and a woman here, and these pieces are just so striking. And as a result of them, I've been able to forge a relationship with Kadir and really learn his story. And it's just absolutely magical how he creates art just like that. Now, my other favorite part of the living room is our coffee table here. So this is actually something that I found on Facebook Marketplace, and I drove like 8 hours to get it. And I'm simply obsessed with it, not just because it's such a striking piece, but also it doesn't stain, and I love that. And as I've kind of said over and over again, for me, it's mostly about kind of like statement pieces, and this chessboard for me is really a piece of art, and it's sentimental to me because my grandfather actually made it. So my grandfather and my grandmother, they're artists as well, and they love to do stained glass and things like that. So they made this chessboard like 30 years ago. So it's kind of a statement piece that we like to sit here and kind of think of them and remember them, and it's really beautiful. Now, as you move throughout our home, you will see more artwork. So I just spoke about my grandmother. This is a piece by her here. It's a self-portrait. And as I said in the beginning, it's all about kind of artwork that speaks to me. So there was a time when I would choose pieces that kind of really coordinated with one another because they had matching colors or something like that. But now I just simply do not care. If something speaks to me in a store, it's coming home with me, and it does not matter what the story is or anything like that. I think art is such an emotional thing. So I love to infuse it throughout our space. Even though I'm the interior stylist in the family, the mirror was something that my wife really wanted. So we got this big statement mirror. It's 116 inches. I have no idea how we got it up on the wall, but this is really front and center. And I think it does a really great job of reflecting these beautiful ceilings we have here. You can see all of the ductwork, and I think it's very Pittsburgh, which is something that I really enjoy. And I think it's more of like, an older element, a Baroque element next to like these really striking portraits, which I think is a really nice juxtaposition. Now, throughout my design career, I have kind of dabbled with color and I've not. I grew up in a super maximalist home, so our house was truly rainbow. So I actually kind of like to keep our home very minimal when it comes to color, but I saw these two green chairs at an outlet and I had to pick them up. I kind of get things from all over everywhere. I'm very much so a bargain shopper. So if something is on sale, I'm gonna pick it up. We rented a U-Haul, we got these home. Are they a little bit messed up? Yes, but honestly, I'm sure that kind of adds to their charm or something to that effect. And I think that they pair really beautifully with this fun lamp that I also made my wife drive really, really far to come get with me. They even had the original receipt from like 1970 for this lamp here. It's super cool, it still works, and it's kind of a sculpture in and of itself. And when I'm thinking about the best tips for designing one's home, I think buy things that you really love. I used to, as I just said, I wanted things to match perfectly, but I think if you buy things that you love, it's automatically going to work. And don't be afraid to kind of like rearrange your own home. Our home is always shifting about. If you follow me on anything, one day our living room looks like this, tomorrow it'll look different, and that's okay. I like to rearrange your own home and get a different experience because it's not realistic to go and buy new furniture all the time, but it is realistic to shift some rugs around or shift some furniture around. You get a new experience with that piece depending upon where you move it, and that's something that I really, really enjoy. When it comes to the overall style of my home, I would say the home itself is very industrial, which makes sense for Pittsburgh. So we have exposed wood ceilings, we have a lot of piping and beams and things like that, which I really love. When it comes to my actual interior design style, I'd say it's very modern and contemporary with a real focus on artwork. So when it comes to finding artwork, it's really all about what speaks to me. So when I actually found these pieces, I was in a random furniture store, I saw them and I said, I have to have them. They didn't fit in my car. I'd driven out there with my wife and I literally was like, I love you so much. I've got to leave you on the side of the road and come back for you. So I brought them home, and that's just kind of how I choose all of my artwork. So my grandmother's also an artist. I have many of her pieces in there, but she used to find artwork at the Goodwill, in a dumpster. So that's actually how I find my artwork as well. And I also really love to use Instagram because I think it's a really great platform for finding smaller artists that maybe aren't represented yet and getting a chance to really appreciate their artwork and put it in your home. So now I'm going to take you over to our dining space. As I said, it's very much so an open concept. So I wanted our dining space really to be a transition from our living room into our kitchen. So when I'm transitioning spaces, I really like to repeat colors. So obviously you'll see in our kitchen, there's a lot of black. So I wanted to do a black table. And when it came to the chairs, I just wanted something functional. We have a new baby, really easy to get stuff off of these chairs, and they swivel and they're comfortable. And that's actually a really good tip. If you're living in any type of open concept, get chairs that work as accent chairs and also as dining chairs or desk chairs, something like that, so that they're really versatile and you can move them about the space. Now, it's not a super big dining area, but I also wanted to have fun with the rug as well. So we have this nice oblong rug on the floor here. I think it's also kind of a piece of art in and of itself. It's fun, it adds a new shape. We don't want to do too much styling here simply because we don't want to kind of obstruct the view of the artwork in the living room. So I think it's a fun little touch. Now, if you come over here, you can see some artwork that we have in the dining area that I'm really excited about. Now, this is a piece by an artist named Clone, and he does really cool artwork. It's all on cardboard. So this is really just, I'm pretty sure, like an Amazon box that he painted on top of. And I think it's so cool. He tries to incorporate like the box into the artwork. And I think that that is super fun. Behind it, we have this piece that my grandmother really actually found in like a random alley. Like my grandmother's always up to something and I love it because I feel like that's really what got me going in terms of like hunting for really good home decor. So this is the piece that she really found like in an alley. It was falling apart. You can see it's made of newspaper and kind of found objects, which is something that I do in my own artwork as well. And I just had to get it up on the wall. As you'll see as we walk through the home, there are lots of just kind of like tattered pieces of art because that's what I find. And instead of framing them, sometimes I think it's just kind of nice to leave them raw and kind of appreciate how they've kind of aged over time. Up above, we also have a piece by Mimi Kirk Art. She is phenomenal. She started doing artwork kind of like in the last quarter of life, and that's like her new thing. And she has these beautiful pieces. So in her first drop, I had to get one. And this piece moves all throughout the house, and I am just simply obsessed with it. When it comes to how I became an interior stylist, it's actually a really funny story. So I grew up with my grandmother in Baltimore, Maryland, and she was an artist. So I was surrounded by art my entire life, and she was always making a beautiful home. Like there's mosaics all over our walls. It truly looks like an art gallery. So I feel like interior design was always really in my blood, but that wasn't my plan. So I actually was going to school for biochemistry. I planned to be pre-med, but I actually graduated right when the pandemic started. And I said to myself, okay, well, what am I gonna do now? I was studying for the MCAT, and I was like, I'm not sure this is the time to really go to med school for me. So I started posting myself decorating my home on the internet because I was home from school, everything was online, and I was just kind of bored, and things started to take off from there. So after I was posting on YouTube and Instagram, I started having people ask me to help design their homes. So from there, I started decorating homes here in Pittsburgh and then beyond. In terms of my platforms, I'm primarily on YouTube, and my whole entire thing is the luxe look for less. I think that interior design in general is very inaccessible. It's kind of this idea that you can only have a beautiful home once you've made $1 million or once you're very successful, but we all have to be at home all of the time. So I think it's something that we should all enjoy. So on my platforms, I teach people how to design their homes really beautifully with any budget. So I share design tips and hacks. I find really affordable things that look high end for people to infuse in their homes, and that's what I'm all about. Now we're going to move into the kitchen, which is traditionally the heart of the home, but it is probably the most striking room in our space. So the kitchen was originally all gray and like subway tile, but I walked into the stone yard and I saw the stone and I said I had to have it. I know that a lot of people don't like an all black kitchen, but I just love it. I love how striking it is. Does it require me to wipe the cabinets 50 times a day? Yes, but that's totally okay. I don't mind doing it. I kind of let the stone speak for itself because it has so much movement in it. You can see little divots in it. You can see the wear and tear in it. And I think it's just a really, really beautiful thing. And this is where we spend a lot of our time. And I try to put some artwork and decor up above as well to kind of draw your eyes upward. I think when you're designing with a really, really tall ceiling, sometimes the space is kind of forgotten. So I just wanted to put some pieces up there that I've kind of found along the way. And some of the first decor pieces I ever picked up on this journey. I get up there very often and I rotate the art about kind of like I was talking about before. When it comes to my favorite design tips, I think my favorite one has to do with the triangle rule. So this is a rule that has to do with styling shelves. So if you're styling a shelf, if you have something in the middle of your top shelf, you're gonna have things on the periphery of the next shelf. So you're kind of forming a triangle with your shelf styling. I think no matter what your interior design style is, if you do this, it's going to look fantastic. And I think that shelves really give everybody trouble. And now we are going to move into our entryway and probably my second most favorite room in the home, which is a powder room. I know it's kind of funny to say a powder room is your favorite room in a home, but just wait and see. So as we move into the entryway, you will see a little bit more color coming into play here. I want the entry into the home to be a little bit more warm and inviting than maybe our kitchen. So I do like to play with like the more neutral tones. So you'll see a lot of brown here. This is a piece that I got most recently from this really cool place in Pittsburgh called Artifact, and they just accumulate things from all over, and it's this warehouse. It has to be at least like 12,000 square feet of just warehouse full of amazing stuff. So I found this piece, and there's a coordinating piece in the bedroom that I'll show you as we move in there, but I just found this space so absolutely striking. I love the colors, and I thought it would be a great way to kind of welcome you into the home. And then I can honestly tell you, I don't know the background of this piece. I just love this face. As you will see, there are a lot of faces in artwork. I love portraiture. I love faces. I love the human body. So this stood out to me. So I just kind of have this sitting here. Now you're seeing a little bit of brown here, but it's about to get kind of crazy as you come into the powder room. And when it comes to our powder room, I really wanted it to be moody. I wanted you to feel like you were in like a nice, like swanky bathroom somewhere in New York City. So you can't really see unless we turn the fan on, which I'm not going to do because we're filming, but I really wanted it to be a super moody vibe. So we have some really gorgeous wallpaper here from Belle Arte's studio. It's so fun. It doesn't really require much to make a statement. And then from there, I decided I wanted to do a pivot mirror where we could light behind it. I can change all the lights here. So if you wanted to turn it into a disco, you can do that in the bathroom, which I think is super fun. I also chose these light fixtures because they kind of remind me of bats. And I thought that was a really cool element. And if you come in here, you will see the continuation of my love of like the human body. So right here, you can wash your hands and you can also give it a high five there. I think it's a fun little element. I just like little whimsical things like that. And then on this side, this is probably one of my favorite pieces of artwork. This is by Curtis Brand, and this is actually volcanic ash from an eruption in Guatemala. He bore witness to that, and he created this series of artwork. So I think to me, this kind of looks like an asteroid or something like that, or a meteor in the sky. I think it's a very interesting piece, and I love like the tactile elements. I'm not gonna touch it, but do I touch it even though you're not supposed to touch art? I do, because I think it's just so fun. And then I also have these little candlesticks here by the toilet. I just want it to be like a little moody vibe. I know it's kind of weird for a bathroom, but I think you should have fun while you're sitting in here. You're only in here for a few moments, so I think it should be a nice moody experience. And then I do have some pieces of artwork along here as well, just to support some artists that I found kind of on Etsy. I love, again, bodies, and I actually found like that these bodies look kind of like me and my wife, and so I kind of like that little ode to us there as well. And this was just like a big white box before, and I think it kind of gives like moody little speakeasy bathroom vibes, and I think it's probably the most fun part of our home. Now we're gonna move into the entryway, which is not traditional artwork here, so I actually challenged myself to do a budget-friendly entryway makeover because my thing is all about creating that luxe look for less, and I wanted to create some pieces that were inspired by some designer stores. So I just got all the supplies from like craft stores and Amazon, and I made them because I thought, hey, let's take something that's normally $500 and do it for $50 and see if it's possible and if it looks comparable. So that's what I did here. Now, as we move further in the entryway and into the bedroom, you can start to see that really striking piece back there. And then you can see another piece by Kadir. So this is one that he actually made for me. And as you can see here, he does this really cool thing with artwork where he will actually like include the person that he's talking to at that time in the artwork. So there's my face there. It looks a little bit like me. And I don't know, really, really fun piece. And he taught me how to frame it. So that's something I'm gonna do soon. But I like kind of the continuation of his artwork there. Now we're gonna move into the bedroom, and this is again where we get really moody. So it's really bright and airy in our living room. It's not like that in the bedroom. I want it to look like a cave where I sleep. I know it's very controversial, but I'll show you, it kind of works for us. Come on into the primary. Now I'd like to welcome you to our primary. Again, I really want it to feel like a cave. That is paramount to me. And I know it's a controversial take, but I don't care. So first we have this piece. I saw this in Artifact, that same store I was telling you about, and I was just obsessed. Again, there's newspaper in the artwork. There's so many faces. There's so many amazing colors. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I have no idea what this artist's name is, but the person that I bought it from did tell me the story. They found this guy in New York City at a Sunoco making artwork, and he walked up to him and said, could I buy, a few of your pieces? And he sold it to him, and this is kind of how I got this piece. But I love it, and I gravitate, I think, more so to more Afrocentric art. That's just kind of what I enjoy. And you'll see a few more pieces like that once you come into the bedroom. Now back here we have two pieces by John Osborne Art. I love his work. It is so vibrant, it's so fun, and again, more faces. You can see I'm very partial to a particular type of artwork, but I just love the movement in them, and I feel like I see a new face every single time, which I just think is so special. And scattered through, when I can't find artwork, because I'm always acquiring new artwork, you should see my storage unit, it's embarrassing. But when I haven't found the perfect piece, yes, I make my own artwork, as a stand-in. So this is my artwork. This is my artwork here as well. But we can move on into the actual primary bedroom, where we've gone really dark and moody. We've gone with Black Fox in here, something else my wife chose. But here is the primary. So I would probably say the most striking part of the primary is this very large Rorschach here. So as I said, I would plan to go to med school before I kind of got into this thing, and I wanted to be a psychiatrist. So I felt like this was a little ode to that. So I had this made, and I love asking people what they see in it. I see a dog. I see a ram, and sometimes I see ovaries depending upon the day, but I love asking people what they see when they come in here. I am also very partial to like the color drenching, so we like to do a lot of brown in the bedroom and keep it interesting with texture. So we have faux fur here, we have some waffled nature, we have a lot, of the same color but a little bit more movement. And I have to share this with you. I found this lamp for $9.99 at Goodwill, which I think is just absolutely amazing. I really like to go hunting at like Goodwill, things like that, to find a really nice statement piece like this. So I think this lamp was a really awesome score. But in terms of the bedroom, we really want to keep it minimal because, as I said, I am always working on a new project, messing something up. I'm like super messy, like as a creative person, because I'm always painting something, I'm always doing something. So we try to keep the home really nice and sleek. Now, above the bed, this is a piece of art made out of coffee. So one of my favorite designers, I think someone who kind of inspired me to start designing things, was Leanne Ford. She's actually based here in Pittsburgh. And she did this really awesome room with coffee as wallpaper. And I was like, that's really cool. So I was like, I've got some coffee at home, right? So I made a tapestry using coffee and mounted it above the bed. I think it's really fun and it adds like a nice smell to the house, but I did varnish it as well. And in terms of what else we've got going on, we put up a fun chandelier because I love the way it kind of makes it look like the wall is textured, because this is certainly a room that I would not have the bandwidth to wallpaper. I don't think I could stay on a ladder for quite that long. And then along this wall, this is more artwork that I made just because I wanted artwork that kind of blended in with the wall, because I didn't want it to be too stimulating in here. So I just took the paint that was on the wall and incorporated it into these pieces and kind of made a set here. So we also decided to do 2 dressers here because we've got a lot of clothes and I wanted it to look really, really nice and grand. So we got 2 of the same dresser here and we have this kind of just really nice long stretch of space, which I think is really beautiful because you can kind of style it, switch it up. You can put holiday decor here. I think that that is super fun. And then also it's really good for doing laundry, which I think is quite nice. Now, when it comes to artwork, obviously there's a lot of DIY artwork in here, and I think it's all about just finding colors that like kind of speak to you and recreating it and like putting that on a canvas. I'm going to do that again. When it comes to creating your own artwork, I say always start with a color that you already have in your home, because it's a really great basis because you know you like that color. I think when we're DIYing anything, we're designing something for the first time, there's a lot of self-doubt. So I think if we start with something that we know is going to work, it kind of gives us the confidence to keep on going. And I think whenever you think it's time to stop, that's when it's time to stop. When you go one step further, that's when you ruin it. So that's what I kind of like to do when I'm DIYing my own art. And I always like to use coupons at like the local craft store, Michael, stuff like that. So it gives you, you know, the confidence to do the DIY because you only spent $20, $15 in materials. So it's worth it, you know, stuff like that. And then we can make our way into the primary bathroom, which I think is a pretty fun place. So welcome to our primary bathroom. I wanted to go for the drama in here. You can see I really like dramatic stuff. I love large stuff, and I really wanted to take the same tile that I did on the floor and take it up to the ceiling. And this bathroom was the first DIY project I ever did. I decided, not this, but I decided to rip out our entire bathroom at the start of the pandemic. It was like my first time ever doing anything. I watched some YouTube videos and I was like, I can do this. And it actually looked pretty nice, but then I said, okay, I'm gonna get a real contractor in here. And so he was able to do this for me. And then we had these doors made so that we had a nice little arch here. And we have like the dual shower heads and the rain shower, which no one ever uses. I don't know why those things are so popular, but I think it's a really, really fun, like simple room. I really wanted to just kind of lean into the tile itself. Now let's talk artwork. So I just wanted to do some sculpture here. You guys know I love the body. So I got some sculptures here, and then I also have a painting on the other side here. Again, just like a random find down in Baltimore. We found this painting, and I don't know, it reminds me of the bathroom. So I was like, it's gotta go in the bathroom. And then I feel like it was missing some earthiness, obviously, because I made our bathroom into a dungeon. I made our bedroom into a dungeon. So I really wanted to be reminded of the outdoors and the earth. So I actually commissioned some pieces from one of my favorite artists. Her name is Morgan Broom, and she does textured artwork. She's based in Philadelphia, and I said, make it look like the earth. And that's exactly what she did. I had no edits. It was amazing. So this is a set of 12 here, and there's so much movement, and you can really see the texture. It looks like just a rugged piece of land, and I feel like I see something new every time I look at it. And it's a really striking set, and I think it always has to remain a set. Now over here, I decided I wanted to go kind of funky with the lighting. So I decided to hang 3 different pendants of 3 different sizes at 3 different heights for kind of a fun little vibe. And then we just went super contemporary over here, just because I knew having a vanity like this would keep us organized. Like, as I said, I'm a messy individual, so I felt like this would keep us organized. And then we just keep it really nice and simple in here. Of course, I had to add in another sculpture, and there's just like a lot of gold. I really wanted to be reminded, obviously, of all the details that we have in the living room with the gold and the stone and the movement. So I wanted to bring that into the bathroom just a little bit. So when it came to choosing the color in the bathroom here, I wanted it to be a little bit lighter than out in the bedroom because I didn't want it to feel quite like a continuous space. So I went with porpoise in here. I think it has a little bit of green in it that I think lends itself really well to this artwork. And I think it reflects light really well. So what light we do have in here, I think it's really striking, it's really moody. And I decided to do the color absolutely everywhere. So it's the same color on the door, on the baseboards, on the wall, and so forth, which I think is not something that you see all the time. So I thought it was rather striking. What does home mean to me? I think home means to me a place where you feel safe and where you can authentically be yourself. I think home looks different to everybody because we're all very different. For me, home is a very tidy place. It's a place that isn't visually cluttered because for me, I think there's so much going on up here. I'm a creative person, so I'm always thinking about my next project or designing something in my head. I think for my house, I like for it to be really calm, cool, and collected, but for other people, that might be something else. It can be really, really busy, and that's what keeps them feeling creative and energetic. So just wherever you feel safe and at peace, I think that's what home really is.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Windsor and this is Lady. Come on in our home.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi Homeworthy, my name is Windsor and welcome to my home in North Carolina. I actually grew up right here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but after college I moved to Boston, had my first job in Boston, then lived in LA for a few years, and during COVID moved, kind of begrudgingly actually, moved back to North Carolina. I would cry to my husband and say I'd rather be dead in California than alive in North Carolina, but I now have eaten those words because I have come to appreciate it so much more than I did growing up here as a kid. I really love the East Coast, and North Carolina is still the furniture capital of the world. So for me, business-wise, it's amazing to be here and be so close to the furniture industry. But yeah, so I actually now live about 10 minutes from where I grew up, and where we are has changed so much in the last few years, and it feels like an entirely new space. But I always tell people North Carolina is kind of like the perfect hybrid of a place to live. You get all four seasons, you're close to New York, you're close to Florida, you're close to the mountains, you're close to the beach. So we get a little taste of everything here, and I really love it. This is our kind of formal living room and entryway all combined, or foyer all combined in one. So one of the reasons that I love this house when I purchased it, even though this house does not have super high ceilings, this room felt very grand to me. And again, why I loved it is because this was original to the build of the house. So when you kind of walk through the flow, I really just fell in love with how all of these rooms open up to each other. And all of these archways are actually original. They say the devil catches you in the corners, so the more arches you can have, the better. But this room only has one major window in here. So we did the walls white to kind of brighten it up in here, but I wanted it to still feel very earthy, moody, and warm. So we did some kind of dramatic pops of color. So we have this really oversized green velvet sectional that I actually had custom made in LA. It's a super comfortable couch, even though we rarely sit on it. So I have this very dramatic brass coffee table in here, and I love the ambered glass. To me, that's such a fun element to bring into any design space. And you'll notice throughout my entire home, I am obsessed with coffee table books. I collect them. You name a coffee table book, I probably have at least one copy, if not two. But this Elvis coffee table book is actually one of my prized possessions. So this is a very limited edition. I think they only made 1,000 copies, maybe 10,000 copies, but it's so oversized, and I feel like it's really just such an iconic piece to have in anyone's house. So this is a very coveted special piece to me that I'll always keep prevalent in any home that we're in. All right, I think Lady is tired of being on camera, so I'm gonna put you down. One thing you'll also kind of notice throughout this house, I also have a love and appreciation for kind of, I don't know if you want to call it like Africana safari vibes, but I really love like animalistic influence. These were actually gifted to me by a design firm that I used to work with. But as soon as I saw these, I fell in love with them. The movement, the color scheme, everything about them to me is so dramatic and just interesting. And I feel like they really pop well on this coffee table. I'm all about a high and low moment. And if you follow me on social media, you'll recognize this rug. So this was one of my first extremely viral videos. I found this rug on Amazon, and this is an 11 by 15, which normally for rugs this size, you're paying thousands and thousands of dollars or having to order them custom. But I came across this Amazon seller that was selling these for like $500 for an 11 by 15. It is just a jute rug, but for the scale of this room, I really needed something large. And kind of one of my, ways that I was able to increase my design business was through promoting things on social media. And this was one of my first videos that went really viral. So I found this rug on here and was telling my followers about how this is a great way to have a really elevated and high-end look for a very low price point. And I talk to people a lot about, I call it the island effect, when your rug is too small and it feels like all your furniture is stuck on a little island. Having a nice big area rug like this just makes the space feel open, and it just gives room for every piece of furniture to breathe and stand on its own. And especially for a big, long room like this, it makes a huge difference in just what your eye is going to and how the overall aesthetic looks. So one thing you'll notice, we have a lot of neutrals in here, but I like to kind of bring visual interest into the neutrals with texture. And then you'll also notice I'm a huge, huge fan of sculptural elements. So there's only so many pieces of art that you can put in a house, like canvas art. So I love sculptures. I think every piece of sculpture, like a face, a body, anything figurative just has so much personality. This little cocktail table here, I just love the texture and the dimension that it brings. So this is from Mr. Brown London, which is one of my favorite brands to work with. It's a trade-only brand out of High Point, North Carolina. But I love how it makes these pieces pop. And even though the chair is white, this cocktail table is white, I feel like all these pieces come to life with the texture. And then we have this really oversized sculptural piece here that I actually added a light behind. It did not come with a light, but I just wrapped some LED lights behind it to kind of give it a nice glow so it almost feels like an oversized sconce. Some of our friends call this the tortilla sculpture because I guess it looks like a tortilla, but I absolutely love it. And again, it's like, this is a really big room. How many pieces of art are we gonna put on every wall? So this breaks it up, it adds dimension, and it just adds a cool pop of interest into the space. And again, talking about the highs and lows. So this console, I'm a huge fan of Burlwood. This console is actually from Target. It's a Studio McGee console, but I've layered it in with a Branch Home light fixture, again, that's sculptural. And this lamp is a very high-end fixture made of solid marble with some really beautiful custom drapes, and of course another collector's coffee table book, because I love my coffee table books. So this is actually the original mantle that came with the house. But before we had like the big glass doors on the front of the fireplace, this mantle was painted white. We kept the original stone, but I wanted to do something again like sculptural and contemporary with the actual fireplace itself. So when I saw these like cement spheres online, I thought this is one of the perfect ways to kind of spice up this room. And I love, with all of these sharp lines we have in here, to have the soft curves with these cement spheres. I think it's really beautiful, and it just adds a little layer of personality and something that's different in a home of this age. This is probably the most special piece in this entire house. So this piece of art is, I believe it's a 55 by 55. It's very large scale, and it's actually painted on wood. It's extremely heavy, and it's all done in oils. But just to set the scene for you, when I very first moved to LA, I was on a shoestring budget, and I got taken to this store by an old colleague of mine where she called it the dead people store, but it was really like a consignment store, and it was all of these like celebrity homes or just like, I guess, influential people's homes they would donate, and all of the money of the pieces sold goes to a children's charity. But it was like a hoarder's antique shop, like floor to ceiling stacked. And I walked in, and from across the room, I saw this piece. And I'm a Scorpio. I love scary movies, anything scary. And the second I saw this face, I was like, I have to own this. Like, I absolutely love this piece. They had no information about who painted it, where it came from, like absolutely anything. But I fell in love with it. At the time, this cost more than my monthly rent. So I went home, called my parents. I was like, I can't afford this. What do I do? And my parents were like, you know, you're on your own now. You got to figure it out. So I decided I would rather eat ramen noodles for a month and not have a lot of extra spending money and splurge on this piece. And the colleague I went with at the time, I remember she told me, she said, this will be one of those pieces that you can say, when I first moved to Beverly Hills, I bought this piece of art, and she was like, you'll have this for the rest of your life. One of the biggest reasons that I love it is that everyone that looks at this piece sees a different story, and it evokes something different out of every person. And on top of that, the color scheme is my just love of these muted greens and browns, and it works so well with the rest of our house. So this is one of my collector's items. Like, if the house was on fire, I'm grabbing this and running out the door. This console is not only beautiful, again, I love adding in texture when you have neutrals. It's also super functional. It adds a ton of storage. And then these are, again, we're looking at a high-low. I have this vintage, it's vintage-esque, it's new, but it's from Home Goods. This bread bowl is like $30, paired with these really beautiful lamps by Bunny Williams. Bunny Williams to me is, you know, just a tastemaker when it comes to lighting design. But one thing that I tell clients all the time is that the scale of your lamps is really so important. And I go in people's houses all the time, and they have these tiny little lamps on their buffets or their consoles or their entry tables. And I wanted something that was really large scale, you know, had some visual interest, but wasn't going to take away from this art piece. So when I saw these, I really loved them. To me, they're the perfect amount of kind of like elegance and sophistication. They also lean a little bit more traditional to be paired with this super modern cabinet here. But these, again, are just another great way to incorporate kind of like a high-low investment piece. To me, lamps are so versatile. These would be great anywhere in the house, no matter where you use them. And black shades are actually a little unpopular in the design world, I feel like. But I love them, especially in here with all of these white walls. To me, it adds a great amount of contrast, and I like it moody, I like it dark, so I don't need tons of light pouring out from these fixtures. This home was built in 1947. And I actually just told my husband the other day, we were looking at some of the original listing photos, and I was like, I'm glad we were young when we bought this, because we had a lot of energy to take on the amount of projects that we did. But I like to say it was abandoned. It was left vacant for 6 years prior to us purchasing it. The previous owners, I guess, retired out of state. So everything was overgrown, outdated, needed love and attention, but it was prime COVID. We had nothing to do. It was the middle of winter. We were moving from LA, and we thought, you know what? Let's take on this huge project and we'll do a lot of this ourselves, which was a little naive in hindsight. So when we bought this home, it was not painted. The exterior was not painted. Every room was painted a different color. The kitchen was probably one of the worst kitchens I've ever been in my life, and we lived with that kitchen for about 4 years until we just recently renovated it. But what I loved about this home is that it was built in the 40s, and most homes in this neighborhood from that time period are very chopped up. So they have lots of small rooms, lots of formal living rooms, dining rooms, chopped up bedrooms, closets, things like that. This house just naturally has a really great flow. We did not disrupt any walls. We still have not moved any walls or openings. Everything is original. And this is kind of like a Tudor-esque cottage style house, which is one of my favorite styles of home. I'm a very like cozy, warm type of personality. So to me, you know, the layout and the aesthetic of this house just matches really well with my personality. We got in here and, you know, painted everything, replaced the light fixtures, and just got the bare bones kind of covered. And then slowly throughout the last few years, we've taken on kind of room by room, project by project to help make it feel more like our own. And one of the, in my personal design style, and what I urge a lot of clients to do, is have a mix of like modern elements from current design trends, but also old world and traditional elements. And I feel like, especially in an older house, it's really important to pay homage. Like our kitchen, for example, I would not have wanted to put a super modern kitchen in this house because it's an old home. Like in 20 years, this house is gonna be almost 100 years old. So I would not have wanted to put a super modern kitchen in this house because it just doesn't fit with the bones. So the thought process behind all of the design choices in here have been, we want the structural elements and the architectural elements to feel original and traditional to this era, but some of the furniture and art and accessories can feel, you know, modern and contemporary. And, you know, we're a young gay couple living in North Carolina, so we want it to feel like it's different, it's edgy, it's cool, and it reflects our personal style. But I don't want to take away from the beautiful design elements that were originally created for this home. We don't really use this room unless it's the formal living room, unless it's for parties or something, but day to day, this little sunroom is where we're spending all of our hangout time after work, relaxing and watching TV. So I always tell people TVs are like the quickest way to ruin the aesthetic of a room. I do love a good frame TV. I think that's a great compromise, but in general, I don't like to have a room framed around a TV. I think the room should be framed around the architectural elements. So a fireplace, your view, or kind of like a conversation pit. So when I saw this little unique TV, so this is by Samsung, and it's called the Seraph. It's meant to look like mid-century furniture. So it has these legs and it only has one cord, so you can literally just pick it up, move it wherever you want. But I fell in love with this because it's the perfect piece to kind of stay out of the way, but still be functional. It's a great quality TV. But this is where we're doing 99% of our hanging out and relaxing. And in this room, it's great because if you're laying in here on a Saturday, you kind of feel like you're outside with all of these huge windows, so you don't necessarily feel guilty about being inside all day. But I think this room is a really good representation of kind of my overall style and that mix of traditional form with kind of like modern and contemporary elements. So we have a pretty modern sofa here. This trunk, funny story, was actually the first office I ever worked in. This was our coffee table in my very first office in Boston. And when the company closed, the owner gave me this coffee table, and I actually packed this, duct taped this shut, shipped it from Boston to California, filled with like my coffee table books, blankets, pillows, all this stuff, like literally just slapped a FedEx label on it, and then shipped it back from California to North Carolina. So God knows where it was before this, but it has literally been across the country and back. So I always like to incorporate this into the house. But again, so I have kind of a mix in here. We have like a more contemporary rug. I have a modern side table here. And then paired with, this is an actual vintage Herman Miller mid-century modern Eames chair, and this is from the late 1950s. I purchased this from a really close family friend. This was their grandfather's. He bought it new in the late 50s. We've never had it refinished or anything. I love all the wear and tear and character it has on it, and it's actually just the most comfortable chair in the world. So I know some people say the Eames chair is overdone or, you know, it's too predictable, but I love it. It's so comfortable to watch TV. And again, I love that this is an older piece mixed in with some of these more contemporary and modern elements. This sheep is a really good, another story, if I'm not boring you guys with my stories, but this is a good retrospect into my like admiration for the furniture and design industry. So there was a furniture company called Mitchell Gold Bob Williams for a really long time. They were out of Hickory, North Carolina. They unfortunately closed in the last couple years just due to some crazy circumstances, but their logo was this sheep. That was what they were known for. And in every display, they had these sheep. So when I was in LA, Mitchell Gold had a showroom in Beverly Hills, and I would go, look at all these pieces, and I always just loved the sheep. Fast forward to living in North Carolina, I was at one of the closing sales when the company was going out of business, and they had their full display for sale. And I was with my mom, and we were asking them like, hey, everything, they were selling everything. So we were like, hey, are you guys gonna sell these displays of the sheep? And they were like, yeah, we can. So they sold me this, and I just love it. To me, it's just an unpredictable piece. Again, I love sculptural elements into a space. Behind this is a light fixture, kind of a funky little floor lamp by Regina Andrew. She's one of my go-to lighting sources when it comes to clients, but this was just a really cool take to me on adding in floor lighting into a space. They call this the happy lamp because it looks like a little smile with two eyes, I guess. But it's just, again, a fun, unexpected sculptural element in this space that I feel like just kind of helps make the room more interesting, and it adds character and shape. Another one of my favorite, I guess this is, now that I'm saying this out loud, you'll notice lighting is just like one of my go-tos. But another favorite light piece I have in here is this table lamp. So this is a great example, again, of incorporating sculptural elements. So this is Kelly Wursler for visual comfort. Kelly is like God to me. I love everything she does. But I saw this lamp. I thought it was so beautifully done. And this to me is a great combination of the earthy tone. It's warm, it's cozy, but it has this crazy modern sculptural element to it. And again, it's very large scale. We're always looking for those really big lamps. I'm a nature person, so for me, it's so refreshing to be able to come in here and just kind of like, I don't feel like we do this enough as adults, to just kind of like daydream, not look at your phone, just look out the window, look at the nature. Here in North Carolina, we have all these beautiful season changes. Look at the seasons and just kind of like appreciate life for 10 minutes in the morning. So that's what I really like this room for. And when we bought this house, it was crazy. They had, this whole room was painted like Masters green, like the Masters golf course or the Masters golf tournament green. And they had huge blinds covering all the windows. The bushes were very overgrown, but we came in here and they had like a sofa and two recliners in here, and we were kind of like, this is not, whatever, this is a little bonus room, like, maybe we'll make this a sitting room or something. And when we closed on the house and we came in here, we started taking the blinds down, and we were just like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing space. Like these windows, the light, everything, which originally to this house, this was like probably a screened in porch, and one of the previous owners glassed it in. But it's just such a special little room. And in here, because it's sunken, the ceiling height is a little higher. So it feels very grand and open between the ceiling height and the windows. So we spend, I would say, like 80% of our free time hanging out in here. Growing up here in North Carolina, which is the furniture capital of the world, I was exposed to furniture and interiors kind of all the time unknowingly. My mom worked for an interior design firm our whole life, and she was also a very like hands-on DIY project type of mom. I would come downstairs. I remember actually one morning I came downstairs and she literally had a sledgehammer, was going through our drywall to put a new window into our kitchen because she wanted more light in there. So that's the level of DIY that she was, like always taking on projects. I think our house was constantly under construction my whole life. But again, like begrudgingly, she drugged me to all these fabric stores my whole life and furniture stores, and I never really appreciated how much I was exposed to until I got older. But I actually started off in marketing. So I worked for a long time in digital marketing, social media, and all that kind of stuff. And then during COVID, I really wanted a new creative outlet. And I always had just had a love for interiors. We were living in California at the time, in LA. And I worked really hard on our apartment there to make it beautiful and feel like home. And so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna start showcasing this apartment during COVID because I had so much extra time to do things. So I started showcasing the apartment more and more on Instagram. As time went on, things started picking up more and more traction. I started taking on small jobs here and there, taking on jobs for family and friends. everything just kind of started snowballing to where I slowly just started getting 100% into interior design. And then that kind of snowballed into also selling, antiques and home decor pieces online. I source these pieces from all over the world. So like this fall, I'm actually going to Paris on a buying trip to sell pieces on my website. But it just kind of happened really naturally, which I think was probably the best thing for me, because I was never a student and I never did well in school. And I think that had I studied design in school, I would have resented the schoolwork aspect of design and maybe not found my passion for it as I have now. So it really just kind of came to be over the course of 1 to 2 years. It just fell into place. And now being here in North Carolina, I can go to High Point Market every season. I bring clients to market, and then throughout the year, I have access to be able to go there, every week to find really cool and unique pieces for my clients. And to me, even as a kid, whether it was decorating my room or, styling the Christmas tree, your home is the most important place in your life. It's your retreat, and it's the space where you can recharge and express yourself. And to me, as a creative person, that's one of the most important things, in your day-to-day life. So creating beautiful interiors with people is just like magic to me. It's one of my favorite things to do. And finding that synergy with clients is just like a dream come true for that to be my day job. All right, so I want to take you guys into the dining room. So outside of the sunroom, whenever we're hosting company, I love to have a dinner party and I love to decorate for a dinner party. So we utilize this dining room a lot. You will actually notice I have not had it fixed and I've not changed it out. This dining table top is kind of beat to smithereens from all of the different decorations and candles and plates and everything that's come across it. But I leave it this way because to me, this is reminiscent of all the wonderful times that we've had in here. But again, this dining room, the layout and everything is original to the house. So we have not moved walls or anything. We did add this really beautiful grass cloth wallpaper here. Grass cloth is one of my go-tos when you're looking to add a little bit of warmth and texture without, having, I feel like wallpaper you can very easily get sick of, and in a room this big, I wanted something that we were not going to get sick of. So this to me was a perfect neutral. It adds just enough interest, but without being too crazy. So again, I think you'll notice in this room, it's a good mix of traditional and kind of modern. So we have this very oversized pendant. This is another Kelly Wearstler piece. And again, why I love this is because it's so sculptural and dramatic, and it really helps balance out a lot of the other more traditional elements in the room. So having the wallpaper from the chair railing up, we have pretty formal drapery panels in here. A lot of it is very formal, so I wanted it to have a little bit of funk when it came to the furniture pieces and accessories, and even down to the rug. So this rug is from Jaipur Living. They're one of my favorite rug manufacturers, and what I love about this rug is that this is a very classic and kind of old world traditional design, but it's been done in a very modern and dramatic colorway. I always say you need a little punch of black in every room, so this adds a really dramatic base into this room. These chairs were actually purchased when I lived in California. You'll probably notice this throughout the tour of this home, I'm an emotional buyer, so I see things, I don't know where it's gonna go yet, but I have an emotional connection to it and I fall in love with them. These were one of those pieces. I found these at a really cool shop in LA. And I was like, I had a tiny apartment at the time. I was like, I have nowhere to put these. I don't know what to do with them, but I love them. They're solid teak, and I just love how sculptural they are. And to me, this does lead itself to a little more of those kind of Africana vibes that I'm drawn to. But I saw these, and when we were moving in, I said, let's just put them at the dining table for now. We don't have any other chairs. And we put them up against this table, and I was like, I kind of love this. And very surprisingly, these are extremely comfortable, believe it or not, even though they look extremely rigid. But I didn't want the rest of the chairs to overwhelm these. So The rest of the pairing is more of kind of like a mid-century upholstered, lower profile dining chair. Again, these are super comfortable. And I love that we're able to fit so many people at this dining table because, again, we like to host and have friends over. And this table is great because it does have an option to put a leaf in it so we can get 2 extra chairs. Being here in North Carolina with furniture market and the antique market, we do have access to a lot of pieces. But anytime I travel, I'm always looking for art and accessories, whether that's California, Europe, anywhere I go, I'm always trying to look for those pieces. There's a brand online, Kathy Kuo, and she says your home should look like a well-traveled home. And I remember reading that and thinking that is such a good explanation of how you want your home to feel because it helps tell a story. So I do plan specific trips to go shopping, but I always tell people when it comes to art and accessories, those pieces a lot of times need to find you. Like just how I've mentioned with several of the art pieces in here or sculptures, they've kind of just unexpectedly found me and I fell in love with them. That's how I think art should be because it's very personal. So whether it's, a candlestick, a sculpture, a vase, or a piece of art, I think those are the pieces that when you're out somewhere, whether it's traveling or at an antique market, if something jumps out at you, even if you don't have a place for it, just grab it because that means there's something there that's tying into a personal element for you. And that's how I've really curated this home. Like I said, half of these pieces I didn't have a plan for. I just fell in love with them. And then I start to base a plan around them. And that's also why I like old houses. Like I like having the challenge of, this is the puzzle piece or this is the board game that you're set up with. So how do you figure this out rather than having everything new and customized for exactly what you want? I like working around the history a little bit. So the Linwood pieces, they're part of a brand called South and English, the cabinet in our living room is actually from South and English, but it's a couple, the husbands, one is from England, one is from Georgia. So South is South from Georgia, and he is the artist. So these abstract pieces he is very famous for, and you see them a lot in like Charleston, definitely all over North Carolina, but I absolutely love his work. So when I saw both of these, I knew they had to come back to our house. Out of that, and the art in here is also kind of an unexpected and special little twist. So these are both by a local artist. He goes by the name of Linwood out of High Point, but these pieces, even though they are so dramatically different, they're both done by the same artist, and we had them framed in the same material. And I don't have a lot of blue in this house, but this is kind of my one little pop of blue that I have in here. Again, both of these pieces really spoke to me, and even though I don't think you would look at them and say they should go together, I just loved them paired in this dining room. And when you walk in from the front door, this piece is one of the first pieces that your eye sees. And I think it's really cool. It kind of just makes the room come together for me. Over on the other side of the dining table, I have a little bit more of, I would say, kind of like an old world flair over here. So this piece I actually found at an antique store. I took it to an appraiser to just get some more information out of it. It's extremely, extremely old, I think from the late 1700s. The glass and frame is both original, and the back is solid wood, and the wood is very deteriorated, and you can tell the age of it. But I've paired it here with a more modern console, and then this antique solid brass lamp that I think is just a really special kind of like, cool way to pay homage to this old world aesthetic. I have one of my sculptures here from my website, and then kind of changing from antique to like Grecian Roman vibes to, again, a little bit more of that funky kind of like Africana vibe. So this is kind of like a good encapsulation, I feel like, of my style, is just mixing in all these different elements in a more neutral color palette and making them all kind of have a moment for themselves, but somehow come together to create something special and beautiful as one. I'm a shopper, so I think that's a big part of being a good designer, is being a good shopper or having a love and patience for shopping. I could shop for furniture, antiques, and accessories all day long. I never get tired of it. So I want to take you guys now into the extremely newly renovated kitchen. And when I say new, I mean that we had contractors in here last night finishing up a few last minute details. But the before of this kitchen, so we did not change the footprint in here, but it was taken down to the stud. So everything before was original. So cabinets from the 40s, we had 2 layers of linoleum floors in here. Formica countertops, it was terrible. So that's why we wanted to wait a little bit, live in the space, see how we wanted to use it, and really figure out what it was we wanted out of a kitchen, because this is such a huge investment. Every detail needed to be perfect. So we just finished this up and I could not be happier with this kitchen. To me, it makes this house finally feel like a home. In here, I think again, you'll notice that mix of modern and traditional elements together. So we went for a very classic style shaker cabinet. I did all unlacquered brass hardware. You'll notice on the fridge, these are already starting to patina and change, which I love. I cannot wait for these to look old and worn. And I wanted the beauty of marble in here. So the countertops here, as well as the full backsplash, is all a honed Brazilian marble. You know, there's so many beautiful marbles, and I've seen, you know, a million pictures on Instagram and in other people's homes of beautiful, colorful marble. But again, with the investment level, I wanted this to feel classic and timeless. And I wanted this to also feel like this could have been something that was selected for this kitchen back in the 40s. So we went with this, you know, very classic marble. In the detail though, it does pick up some of the green in the veining. But because marble is a little bit more sensitive and high maintenance, we wanted something practical for the island. The island is actually a leathered quartzite, and the leathered, it gives it this really beautiful texture, so you can actually feel the veining here and feel the difference in the stone. But this is super tough. You can, you know, put your plates, dishes on it, pots and pans, anything like that, and you're not gonna hurt it. I also love, again, the punch of black in here. I think this adds a great contrast into the space. This island we modeled after a few islands that we saw in person in magazines and took inspiration from, of this looking like a furniture piece. So I love the idea of this almost feeling like a big cabinet or something that was, again, brought in the 40s to be functional. And we carried in that unlacquered brass hardware all throughout these cabinets here. So because we did paneled appliances, so paneled fridges are, you lose a few inches, they're not that deep. We actually added in a little mini fridge here because we drink a lot of seltzers. And don't even start to make fun of me, store brand seltzer. I drink a lot of seltzer, and I'm telling you, store brand seltzer is my favorite. So don't come for me for having the store brand. But we added a little mini fridge in here just for additional beverage storage, so we didn't have to take that up with the fridge. But that was a big piece of this kitchen because we did not change the footprint, and this isn't a huge kitchen. We needed it to be hyper functional. So every nook and cranny has been thought out to be as functional and optimized for storage as possible. I want to show you guys a couple of my favorite little details that I think make a huge difference as far as storage. So one thing that's becoming popular now is doing a knife drawer. So rather than having your knife block on the countertop, all my knives can go in here. They just go into this little kind of like foamy material, and they just go straight down. And it also has a little pail in the back for spatulas, and then some surface area below if you want to put olive oil, cutting boards, things like that. But that's a great way to kind of keep those out of the way. Our hood here is actually done in a custom plaster that we then painted over. But I wanted that texture in here, and I think, again, this is part of the kind of mix and style. So the form of this is super sleek, super modern, and contemporary, but it has this old world texture to it that I think feels very true to the house. Now, if you're one of those like Khloe Kardashian cookie jar lovers or an OCD lover, I have a treat for you. So my spice drawer, we use a lot of spices, and I wanted this to be absolutely perfect. So I have this built-in spice drawer here with all of the coordinating spices. And what I love about this is it just is so aesthetically pleasing to look at, but it's also super functional. So on the functionality standpoint, the coffee bar, I think, is a really, really interesting setup. So when we were talking to our builders about this little station, so again, this is all the original footprint. Previously, where this wall was behind, we had 2 chairs and a little like bistro table, which no one ever sat at. It was just like a catch-all. And we had everything in this back corner before, like coffee, wine glasses, everything. So we said, let's move everything over here, get it out of the way. And we noticed too, like when we would have guests over spending the night or anything, everyone would get clumped up in the morning trying to get coffee. So we were like, let's get this as far away as possible and removed and have it be its own little space. But in that thinking, you know, the sink is on the total opposite side of the kitchen. We're big Nespresso fans, so we're always having to fill up this little water pod here. So we thought, you know, why not add, the first thought was like, maybe we should add in a sink. We really didn't have, as you can see, the counter space for a sink. And I saw this, it's again unlacquered brass pot filler online, and I thought this would be such a cool way to like rethink a pot filler rather than having one over your range. So now with this pot filler, you can just bring this over, turn this on, and fill up our little pod here. And I know this is definitely like a first world problem of something that is not necessary, but to me it adds in a beautiful little aspect, and it's something that's just different. One of the biggest structural changes that we made in here was enlarging the size of this window. So previously I would say the window that was above this, the old sink was here, but the window that was above the sink was probably a third of the size. And again, we're looking out onto all these beautiful trees and we have this great private view. So I was like, this needs to be as big as possible. So we went as far up and wide as we could for this window just to make this feel totally open. I did these super modern flush mounts up here from Buster and Punch. And what I wanted was whatever we had here to stop right before the face of the window trim so that nothing infiltrated your view to the outside. And of course, we went with a nice big farm sink. I don't know how people live without these. To me, this is just the most functional thing you can do for a sink, whether you're washing pots and pans or just doing normal dishes. You have so much more room than any other style sink. And then we paired it with this really beautiful old world faucet. And I did the faucet in a polished nickel only because I could not find this style of faucet that I wanted with a sprayer in an unlacquered brass. One other detail I wanted to point out in this kitchen. So you'll notice right here in the corner, as well as this corner here. So when we were talking about the finishing of the countertops, you know, sometimes people just leave this blank, sometimes people do a square. I'd seen this beautiful kitchen with all of this custom carved marble, and I thought that could be a really cool element to add into here. Again, this isn't a large kitchen, so we only have 2 end reveals in the entire kitchen. So we decided to carve this out with a double carving and kind of like a scalloped edge on both sides. And I think this adds, I wanted this kitchen to kind of feel, again, true to our house, kind of like an old English cottage or something. And to me, this adds in like a very European old world element in here that I think will be really timeless with this home. You'll notice I'm not like a huge fan of tons of color in here, but I am a huge fan of vintage Turkish rugs. I kind of collect them actually. It's same with like artwork. When I see them, I jump on them. So this one I bought years and years ago from someone that collected vintage rugs themselves and was selling this. And again, it was not planned to go in here. Actually, during the end of the construction process, they had just refinished our floors, and I was like, I need to find a rug in here for everyone walking in and out just to keep, you know, scuff marks and that kind of thing. So I found this in the closet and I rolled it out here and thought, that's perfect, we'll put it here. And then as the rest of the painting came together and all of that, I actually loved the color scheme in here. So I decided to keep it. This is a pretty large opening here, so I do feel like it helps kind of ground the space. And then again, with all of these like, you know, modern fixtures and appliances, I think it brings a little bit of that old world element in here. And then another element that this was actually, even as a designer, this was a huge, huge struggle for me. So this door opens out. So we had very limited space to what we could fit here when it came to counter stools. You know, I looked high and low at every brand that I work with. I just could not find the right thing. I came across these and fell in love with them. I think the wood tone, to me, I love how complementary it is to our floors in here. And again, like our dining chairs, these are actually shockingly comfortable. I sit in these. Sometimes I bring my laptop in here. I'll sit in these for hours at a time. They are very comfortable. And even though they are a more contemporary shape and kind of form, I think that the elements between this distressed leather and the light wood tone, it really makes it feel warm and homey still. And I think it helps balance out this really dramatic island. This used to be just a regular door frame here, and we added in this archway to match the rest of the existing archways. But when we were choosing the paint colors and the wallpaper, I loved how this framed out this little vignette of this new powder bath. So the wall color to this wallpaper in the powder bath were very complementary to each other. And I wanted it to be like a little sneak peek to spark your interest to maybe come in here. So this powder room was just recently renovated. And this actually used to be the entrance to the downstairs bathroom as well as a linen closet. But because this house only had 2 bathrooms, we wanted to utilize the space and create a powder bath. And because this isn't really that large of a space, I had to get a little creative with some of the design choices. So I chose this oak tree mural, which I think is just beautiful. You go in here and it just kind of like takes you into a whole nother world. Like I think the visual aspect of it is just so dramatic. And again, staying true to our area, and the time period, we have big, beautiful oak trees all around. So I love that this kind of pays homage to that. And then in here, I found this marble sink. So this is actually a solid piece of marble that they carve out from remnant marble. And believe it or not, I actually found this on Etsy. It's shipped from Turkey. So I was a little scared when I saw it online that like, you know, maybe this is gonna come and it's gonna be this big or a toy or like who knows what, but I was like, I'm gonna take the risk and go for it. So I got it. We needed, this is only 20 inches wide. So we needed something really small to fit in here with the door opening. And I love how the veining in this marble almost feels like a continuation of the wild branches from the tree. We did a wall-mounted faucet, and then this is actually an antique picture frame that I found with a piece of art in it, and I saved the piece of art, so don't worry about that. But saved the piece of art, took the art out, and replaced it with a mirror. The size again here was really, really tough. I had to look high and low to find a mirror that fit here. And then for the light fixture, this is actually a new piece from Arteriors, but again, I wanted to kind of pay homage to the wild kind of natural feeling in here. So I did this kind of branch-like feature, and I think between the sink and the light fixture, it helps kind of balance out this really, you know, dramatic wallpaper. And I think this adds a little bit of that flair of the modern and contemporary, again, into something that feels very ornate and traditional. The trim in here is Mouse's Back by Farrow and Ball, which is a complementary color to our cabinet. So since you can see this from our kitchen, I wanted everything to kind of flow together. And the ceiling is Slipper Satin by Farrow and Ball, which is the same ceiling color that we have in the kitchen as well. Both very kind of just like warmer, creamy tones, and they pulled from this wallpaper perfectly. But while we were, you know, going through the construction process, I would bring wallpaper samples and paint samples into the kitchen at all different times of day because I wanted to make sure that everything really flowed well together. And that all these colors were working together to make this space feel really cohesive. So right outside of the powder bath in my hallway, I have art everywhere throughout this house. I'm like an art junkie, but so this piece at the top, when I lived in LA, I would go to the West Hollywood flea market. I can't remember what they called it, but there was this guy there. He's very eccentric, very unique, and he drew this woman in all different shapes and sizes. This frame was his framing, everything he chose. And I went up to him and I was like, I love this. Can I please purchase it? Most of these vendors like took credit cards and that type of thing. And he was only taking cash. And I don't remember what it was, the $120 or something. And I said, I only have $100. Could I Venmo you? Like, can I do whatever? And he got like super mad at me and was like, forget it. I'm not selling it to you. You can't have her. And he tells me her whole story. He says, her name is Karina. She's been disappointed by men her whole life, and gives me this whole background, this like very eccentric artist, which made me fall in love with the piece even more. Cause I think like anytime someone's like a little bit wild, I'm like, I wanna buy your art. But so he gives me this whole thing, and then I'm like, I'm gonna go get cash, I'll come back. I bring back $120. And he's like, I'm not gonna sell it to you for $120. He's like, she's very sensitive and she didn't like everything that we just went through, so I don't wanna sell it to you anymore. And I was begging him, I'm like, now I have to have it. I'm like, please, I'll give you $300, like whatever it takes. So he was a cool guy. He ended up selling it to me. But I feel like she has such a cool energy. I will never reframe this piece because he chose the frame with her. I think all art has energy, and I think it, like, whenever it has a story like that and someone had such strong emotion connected with it, that's what makes it special. So she has always been in my home, and I think she just is a great conversation piece and very sophisticated. But that brings us into this guest bedroom. So right when you walk in, you'll see this Gucci scarf that I had framed. And this was actually just kind of a fluke. I was on The RealReal one day. They had this on there super cheap. I think it was like $50 or $60 on a sale. And I just loved it. So I thought, you know what, why not buy it, frame it? It's a great little vignette right when you walk in here. But you come into this guest bedroom, and this again is kind of like a continuation of the color palette and aesthetic from the rest of the house. So we have this very kind of proper poster bed frame, but I've mixed it with some mid-century pieces, some modern sculptural pieces. The lamps in here are very sculptural, and then a lot of textures. So we have like hide pillows, velvet pillows, Turkish rugs that have been cut up into pillows. And then of course I love a good heavy drapery panel. Even though we have the plantation shutters in here, I always tell people drapes or curtains to me are kind of like your eyebrows on your face. Like, they help frame everything out. And when you add them in here, it just helps balance the room so much. Again, this room does not get a lot of light, so we did go with a Chantilly lace white wall in here, but I think adding in these heavy drapery panels warms it up, and with all of these tones in here, it still feels really warm and cozy. So these are actually, again, actual mid-century chairs. So these are from the 1950s. My mom and I were out antique shopping one day, and we saw these. The wood stain and the brass caps on the feet are all original. The upholstery was in a little bit of a rough go. So we found some beautiful fabric, had them reupholstered, and now they're back to their original glory. And with these, almost every room in this house, actually all the bedrooms, it's very hard to style because most rooms you're gonna have a window, two windows like on each wall, giving you symmetry, and then you'd put like a cabinet or something in the middle. Almost every room in this house, we have one large window that is centered. So you kind of have to balance out what's on the left and the right side. So here was really easy with two chairs, a table here, you know, it feels leveled out and everything. Over here, I kind of had to get a little creative with the bench and this chair. It took a while to find a chair that was the right scale and size for here. So that was a little bit of a design challenge, but I'm one of those people too, with whether it's artwork or accessories, kind of like a more is more sometimes. So I've layered in a ton of different styles of art. I have, you know, French posters, antique oil paintings, a French shield here. Some of my husband paints in his free time. We have some of his abstracts here. And then again, tons of coffee table books that just kind of give it a little bit of warmth and character. So this bedding is all from Nate Home. So Nate Berkus is a huge inspiration to me. And these are some of his pieces from his bedding line that's very affordable. He's actually reposted this bed a couple times on his page. But I love that this linen, again, they're all neutral, but it has interesting texture. And I layered it here with one of my custom lumbar pillows. So I make these for clients, I sell them online, but I love these big oversized lumbar pillows just to make your bed still feel finished. But I can't stand when people have like a million decorative pillows on their bed that all night you're having to move everything off the bed. This way you just really have one or two on here. It makes a big impact, and it makes bed making just way more simplified. This side table, it actually opens up, which I don't know if I want to show what's in there, but this actually opens up. It has storage. But this again was just, I bought this before we even purchased this house. I found it at an antique store. Again, had no plan for it, no idea where it was going to go. Fell in love with it. The wood detail, the staining, everything is so beautiful. It weighs about 1,000,000 pounds, but we got it in here and it fits perfectly in this space. This I bought once we were in North Carolina, but like I said, our house and my apartments, anywhere, it has always kind of been changing. So you come here once and the next time you visit, it will probably look very different. But I'm always moving stuff around. So even in LA, when I was in a studio apartment, you know, I would change out my dining chair for my desk chair and then move the dining chairs into the living room. Like I'm just always moving stuff around. So when I find a new piece that I fall in love with, I just find a way to make it work and fit it in here somewhere. Off of this guest bedroom, we have this hallway. And one thing I love in here is this built-in bookshelf. So this is actually original to the house as well. This used to be all mirrored, which felt very 80s to me. I did not like it. So I actually just grass cloth this myself. Add a little, again, a little texture, a little color in here, and then styled these shelves with some of my favorite pieces. But in through this hallway is what I use as kind of a makeshift office / we have another little guest bedroom for when it is needed. And in here, I went with this really cool, it's actually called Trinket Gold is the color of the paint color. And because we have these boarded walls in here, every drapery panel, anything I brought in here was just always feeling kind of like disrupted. So I thought, you know what, why not make these tonal? And I matched this color like as best I could with fabric, which they ended up being almost identical. So I did a totally tonal drapery panel with the wall color here. So this desk is a favorite of mine. It's by Bunny Williams. I love lacquered furniture. I think it's so proper and beautiful. And we layered this in with a great jute rug, which I love. And this is actually an antique bed frame. So this was my great grandfather's bed frame. It was passed down to my parents. This was my childhood bed when I grew up. It sat in storage for years and years, and then when we moved back, my mom asked if we needed it for anywhere, so I used it in here. Again, I did pretty neutral bedding in here, paired it with one of my lumbar pillows in a really dramatic fabric. And then I wanted to add a little bit of an old world element in here, so I have this kind of very traditional piece of art framed and this very proper gold frame that I think just kind of picks up well with the rest of the tones in here. Again, in this space, we kind of have these centered windows, which make balancing everything a little bit of a challenge. But so I chose to do these kind of fun, abstract pieces on either side to help balance it out. And then again, surprise, surprise, lots of coffee table books layered in here just to add a little bit of warmth. But yeah, so I use this room sometimes to meet clients, take phone calls, go through fabric samples. And it's just a nice little cozy room. And then it does double if we do ever have an extra guest that needs to stay here. It's great to have an extra little bed. As a Scorpio, fall and Halloween are my absolute favorite holidays. But I love decorating no matter what the occasion is. So every autumn I come in and I layer lots of pumpkins, mums, and these terracotta jack-o'-lanterns onto our front steps. I love having these nice big bluestone front steps. So we have plenty of room for all of this. We throw a big Halloween party every year. I usually decorate this in September just because I'm getting excited, but I love to just embrace each season and fall especially. So I like to go all out, add lots of pumpkins. And this year I did a little bit more of a neutral color palette out here, but I was inspired when I saw these at the farmer's market with this color that was very similar almost to our new kitchen cabinets. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna dive into that and go with mainly that color scheme. But yeah, every season I come out here, layer different things in. In the spring, I'll do lots of like hydrangeas and tulips out here. At Christmas, I do garland all wrapped around the house. But this porch we rebuilt it. The original porch, actually, a little bit of a scary fact. So this whole section of this house right here, we realized after we moved in, we were told by a structural engineer that it did not have a proper foundation. So we had to rip the porch off and they had to put in foundational support underneath. But we kept, these are the original rails, iron rails to the house. So I kept these original rails and then we rebuilt this to feel again like something as true to the age of the house as possible. Thinking about what home means to me is a really interesting question because one, our house is constantly changing. I work from home and I have clients here all the time. We are very social. We have friends here all the time. So to me, this house is also kind of like a marketing canvas for me to show the possibilities of what can be done in a home. And I think as designers, it's fun to kind of like experiment with your own home because you can take certain risks that clients maybe would not take. I have so many people that come in here that say, you know, this isn't my style, but it's so you, and I love it and I can appreciate it. And to me, there's no better compliment because your home should reflect who you are. And I always tell clients, it's a lot like getting dressed in the morning. You know, we all have a pair of jeans, we all have a white t-shirt, but it's how we style that and how we accessorize those pieces that make it our own. And that's how I feel in this house. I have accessories and artwork from every time period, every corner of the globe, you know, every color palette, anything you can imagine. To me, it's all about those pieces that speak to me and jump out to me and how I can layer those in to be cohesive in an overall style. And like I said, I'm a very like warm, cozy, you know, fall and winter are my favorite season. I love having the fireplace going. I love having mood lighting, and I always want my house to feel warm and cozy. Here in North Carolina, we have beautiful greenery, evergreens, pine trees, oak trees all around us. So color-wise and design-wise, I like to bring those elements inside and make it feel like this is, you know, an earthy, natural house, but that still feels contemporary and unique.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Jen. This is my home in Los Angeles, California. I am so glad you're here and I can't wait to show you everything. Come on in.
Hi everyone, I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and over the past few years, I've been dedicated to bringing you inside the most beautifully decorated homes from around the world and introducing you to the people who have shaped them.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Roz.
You're here at my home in Los Angeles.
Come on in. I can't wait to show you around.
With this membership, we invite you to open more doors, discovering new homes, rooms, and personalities exclusively available to those with the keys to our guest house. You'll be part of a community of people who are also passionate about all things interior design. You'll receive early access to the videos we upload to the main channel. Most importantly, each week we'll be uploading unique videos here that are exclusively available to our members. Tips and tricks from top designers.
We used a high gloss lacquer on the ceiling and it really just reflects everything beautifully.
Never seen before rooms.
And the kitchen is the old altar to the church. This is state dining room. We have a lot of luncheons and dinners and brunches in here.
Behind the scenes photos and so much more. We look forward to welcoming you inside our guest house. To access all of this exclusive content, click the join button to become a member today. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Jenn Feldman. I am in Los Angeles, California. Welcome to my living room and to my home, and I can't wait to show you where I live. My family home was truly a dream come true, a journey of construction and decor coming together. We found this house in August of 2021. It was a 1937 colonial that had really not had a ton of work done to it. So for someone like me, it was exactly what we were looking for. An old house with charm that we could update to modern amenities without losing the soul and the details of what an old home can really provide. My family constellation is my husband of almost 18 years and 2 teenage boys. My older son, Sammy, is 16, and my younger son, Ari, is 13. So the Feldman fraternity house is in full effect most days of the week. And then, of course, we have our wonderful sheepadoodle, Frankie, who is 4.5 years old. Welcome to my front entry hall of our home. This space that I'm standing in here was originally part of the exterior that we were able to take as interior space and create really what became a double ceiling height entry, which so magical, such a lucky find. This arch was created to kind of give a little bit of a separation as you come into the main entry hall behind me. But before I take you there, I'll show you just a little peekaboo of the world I live in with a lot of teenage boys. I have 2 of them that have very large shoes and a lot of backpacks and sporting equipment. So the wall over here was designed to be beautiful cabinetry, but what's really behind the doors is lockers for each of my kids to have all of their supplies and things that they need, and shoe storage below that allows me to not have to look at it every day. So behind me is kind of the main entry and the beautiful staircase. We were able to cut a custom rug for this and make a staircase runner, which I'm still in love with every day, and kind of gives the grandeur and formality to the home. So behind me is kind of our entry part 2, as I call it. This was an art piece that we were able to get on a family trip abroad a bunch of years ago. Holds a really special place to us, just the memory of being on that trip all together. And this is a vintage chair that I picked up in Round Top, Texas. You'll hear me cue that one a lot. That's a big shopping destination for us. And I'll show you another really fun thing. When I originally designed this piece, it was to be functional always and to look great. And having a baseball player in the house, I'm often having to think about making sure that all the gear has its place. So one of the fun things with this piece was it was designed to look like all drawers, but it has a double height one to hide the baseball gloves in the entry. You'll hear that a lot from me. And yeah, all my beautiful things that I collect to just kind of greet you when you come in. I am the queen of mixing masculine and feminine energy. I wholeheartedly believe in that from a design philosophy always, but I think in my particular house, I've tried to walk the line of balancing being able to always, first and foremost, live in this house the beautiful life that we've created, and at the same time become a master of storing baseball, volleyball, and sporting gear that I would like to not see on a daily basis. My decorating philosophy of this house was quite a wonderful journey of bringing the things I love most together. I am a Midwestern born and raised girl from a suburban, beautiful area in Columbus, Ohio. So when people ask me about my style, I say we found the suburban street in Los Angeles that was our dream come true for a family neighborhood, mixed with the appeal of a modern London townhouse infused with European touches that I so passionately love in personal and professional life. So an amalgamation of all the things of Los Angeles, Midwest, and London. Welcome to our front formal living room. As I always say, or used to always say, this is my playroom, the space that I get to have all of the things that I collected. I think what's always interesting about older homes is they weren't built for the way most of us are living today, with big kitchens, big family rooms. So in older homes, you actually have these overscaled living rooms, which for someone like me was an absolute dream come true. So this room, we never had to touch anything. The walls were exactly as they were. What I was able to add, and I knew right away, almost a necessity to me and my life, was putting bookcases everywhere that I could so that I used the vertical space in the best opportunities and started to showcase all of the collections that I've been having for years and years. Huge passion for books, always collecting different series, different artist books, different inspirational books that I use throughout my design work, but things that just love and bring me great joy. Bookcases are such a fabulous area to play with creativity, not only in how you layer the shelving, but some unexpected kind of surprises, as I always call it. And one of my favorites is being able to hang art over a bookcase. I remember the first time I did it years ago, and my art hanger said, "You want me to hang this over the shelf?" And I said, "That's exactly where I want it." So in this room, I hung one of my favorite pieces, just small and kind of really layering to the whole look of the shelving. And you can see every little area tells a story. I remember hand carrying those out of a Paris flea market years ago and flying back on the plane. That was my husband's first entry into traveling with me and what we had to carry on. And everything else really just tells the story of a lot of beautiful family moments and beautiful treasures that I've collected throughout my journey of being a collector. Welcome to the main side of the living room. I love coffee tables. I love layering coffee tables. And I think one of the mistakes that's often made is coffee tables that start too high, because the idea, at least for me and my philosophy, is you want your coffee table as low as you can so that you can keep building up. So this is one of the fun areas in here that I'm always rearranging, getting a new book, finding a new stack, moving things around. I've always had a great passion for collecting boxes, gemstones. I don't think it's any surprise that I gravitate to things that look like jewelry. Shocker. So this collection of boxes and really the collection of stones, I love anything that's got tortoise, tiger's eye, malachite. All of these beautiful pieces have so many details. This one was vintage and I just flipped for it. It's just anything, like I said, that really has this feel of jewelry and just special details. I think layering those kind of elements to a space gives so much texture, but also the personal story of just being able to bring these beautiful things to life in a way that displays them. This bowl was the most recent addition to the table. We were on a great family trip this summer to Italy, and we were able to go to a glass factory in Murano. And this was one of those moments where it sat on the shelf and we knew we were never leaving empty-handed, but the whole family agreed on it, which is rare and at the same time was exciting. And so I think that was the latest layer to the coffee table. I love a gallery wall. I don't think I could ever stay committed to just one piece on a wall. That's a lot of discipline for me. So the gallery wall has just been a bunch of years of collecting some pieces, really special. I think everything, or at least everything in my world, comes back to just the hand-drawn and the feel of something in the era of Picasso was always my greatest inspiration. So all of these pieces came from different dealers, different shows, different places that I've traveled, whether it was for work or for personal, as we've traveled in different areas. And everything really kind of I gravitate to on these vintage and gilded frames. They're so perfectly imperfect. And I think one of the things that I strive for myself, but always with clients, is it doesn't have to be new to the world to be new to your life. And I think that's the journey of collecting vintage. Having a little patina, having a little age gives that rooted feel that something really has had a life and you're part of its story. So I look at gallery walls very often like that, and kind of collecting and being able to tell a larger story. And that's what this wall is for me. As the space really was so large or so long, I knew that the space needed a few key anchors to really round it out. This wall being the first of the main area, but this area over here was kind of the second and really an important anchor for me, not only because of what it actually is, but the idea of how we could use this space. So this table was my beloved grandmother's for 50 years. I kept it in my parents' basement until we had our forever home. And I remember the day that we came in and saw this house. The family we purchased the home from had a game table in this room as well. And that was the moment that I kind of thought, this is really supposed to be where my game table is going to go. And my beloved Gigi had this table forever. I touched nothing but the upholstery on the seats and just changed the fabric on that. But this table holds so many memories of a childhood, life of our family, and a really, really special area for us. So we have Sunday game nights here, and every so often have a nice family dinner, making sure it's not something that my boys can spill all over the carpet. But this area also, I love that it's connected to the outdoor space. And in the summer, or really as we're so lucky in California to keep our doors open all the time, the indoor-outdoor flow is just such a nice area of this room, and really the anchor to this space that connects us to the outside. On the other side of the living room, the classic stone mantle and fireplace, which was such a dream come true to be able to have this, as we actually use it pretty often. But one of the most special parts of this space that I've loved, and kind of always the reminder that perfect accidents happen in things, this was originally where a window was, and because of some crazy construction where we couldn't move something and had to pivot, I said I refuse to give up my window seat, and we're just going to make it a windowless window seat. But it quickly became one of the favorite spots that not only I use to sit on, take a quick morning call and have a coffee, but another really beautiful area for display and things that I've collected. And as we all know, this is really Frankie's house. So this was a window seat that I built for her, thinking she'd have a nice little place to sit and get to look out the window. So now I'm going to take you outside. Let's go. So this area was nothing originally. And one of the first things we did, which I'll be able to show you when we get upstairs, was the big addition on the house, which was for my master closet and office, and happened to be right here, which gave us a covered patio below. This space has quickly become one of our family's favorite spots. We were able to put a heater in, which means we can sit out here at any time of the year and enjoy California indoor-outdoor living at its best. One of my favorite parts of this outdoor space is not only being able to have a dining area outside, which is just so great for family living, family entertaining. These lights are one of the best inventions that the industry has ever seen. They are LED, rechargeable, and they're in so many different sizes and colors. Everybody should be layering them into their house. And I would hardly call myself a gardener, but one of the things I am most proud of is that I have kept alive and thriving 2 beautiful lemon and lime trees, which are behind you. And I love to forage and drop off lemons and limes to friends because I think it's so fun that I can always have them and find them. And they drop like a little snow here. We don't get the snow in LA, but I do get dropping lemons, and so I will happily take it. So now that you've seen the outside, I would love to show you the rest of the inside of the house. So come on. I think my style is modern aged. I am a passionate collector of things that are found. I love the journey of finding something vintage, something antique, something that has a story, and mixing it with the fabricated of something that I can find inspiration, create something new, whether it's a piece of furniture that I'm recovering or finding a little footstool and just changing the stain on it to make it the perfect match. There's such a distinct layering to a house that comes with being able to curate, and I always start my journey with curation and look at it as a living part of the process of building a home, telling a story of the places you go, the things you love, the people you love the most, and bringing that story to life. So, welcome to the dining room. As we were talking earlier, even in the living room, when you talk about scale of older homes, the dining room was always a really important room when older homes were built. So we have the luxury of having a really beautiful sized dining room, which was such a treasure to me. Table that seats, what's my math? 8, but can always have more. There's a few really special things in here, one of which is a mirror that was in my husband's family for at least 3 generations that we know of. It's one of our most special things that our family got to be able to inherit. And as my husband always says, this was the mirror that his mom looked in every day. And every now and then I've wanted to try and fix something on it, and he said, don't ever do it. Let's leave it exactly as my mom saw it, and it's something that we will always treasure for that. So one of the other interesting things in this room is that the paneling, at least to our knowledge, was original to this house, and one of the other details in older homes that you do not see today is what they call dental molding, because it looks like teeth. And there were strict warnings throughout this entire home renovation that if anybody touched this dental molding, they would have to answer to me, and I might have said a few other ugly words. So this was all original detail that I'm so in love with, and we were able to just renovate. I was able to just paint all of this, and I created a custom mural that wrapped this room really, really special. And one of the kind of secret hints or winks on it is that because I did it in vinyl, it's able to be a lot more durable, and I still got all the beauty out of it that I wanted. This was a really special area. It took me a bunch of rounds to figure out what I was gonna do with it, but the original way it was used was just a small display. It was a little off symmetry. It kind of never moved the needle for me, and I didn't really know what to do for a while until I started on my nightly Pinterest research, and I saw an idea for this jib door, which is the hingeless way to create a door and a little peekaboo of storage. So I'm able to keep all of my backstock china and things that I use on holidays and different entertaining, but for everyday use, it is disappeared, and this was made to match into the molding that was already here on the wall. The fireplace, again, was original, and we just were able to reface it with a really beautiful soapstone, which I love, and you'll see another hint of that in the powder room when we turn the corner for that. And one of my most special areas, things that I've just collected always for years, are these beautiful glass jars that were kind of more of a Victorian era kind of way that it started. Perfume bottles, makeup and vanity bottles they used to have on women's dressing tables. And so every time I travel, my favorite place is the flea markets in London, Portobello Market, and I've just always loved the collection of those. And so this is my little area for all of that. First of all, I will say Oprah really does change lives. In 2007, I was one of 3 people that won a contest on Oprah's, at the time, magazine, Oh at Home. And the contest was Knock Knock, It's Nate. And Nate Berkus, who we all know and love, had just really taken a rise with Oprah and had a call out in the magazine for people that were not professional designers that had done their own home. I very quietly submitted some photos and got a knock on my door that truly changed the trajectory of my life. And at the time we were living in Beverly Hills, Nate showed up with lights and cameras, and I was one of a handful of people that had been featured on this wonderful journey of being in the magazine and then flown to Chicago to be live on Oprah's show in the fall of 2007. That moment in time really created what would become the platform for my second act. As I often say, I was really given a second chance to look at my life and my creativity and materialize that into something that was always my passion and had not at that point been anything close to a profession. And what happened after that was a few years of starting this journey. And in 2012, Jenn Feldman Designs was officially launched, and here I am. So off the dining room is this beautiful little quirky hallway, butler's pantry, as one would call it. It existed in the old format of the house, but nothing about it was really functional. So one of the first things we did was take doors off of all of these passageways. It just was so cumbersome, nothing that anybody needed. And the way we entertain today, modern entertaining, is everything's open format. So raised the arches, took off all the doors, and this area, one of the other really special details of the house is all of my paint colors were starting from something, but I wanted them all to be customized to something that I had never done before and something that I could say was really unique and only to this house. So this dark kind of green was created for this, and I did this really fun laboratory experiment with using the slab in a non-mitered way. And I had seen an example of kind of an etching on the edging here, and it's just one of those kind of wink surprises that was something I really had never tried before, and fell in love with it, had a remnant left over, so this was the piece that we were using. And this is just a fun area. I love collecting. I love having dishes and different things to use for entertaining. And one of my other favorite details are the grills, which are a nod to that European influence, which shows up a lot in European design. So the grills are everywhere, and it's got storage and mirror, and I've got some wallpaper that's layered in on this side. And it's just a great way to collect and display glassware and dishes and silverware and entertaining for the fun times that we use it. One of my favorites was this set that I found in Round Top, Texas, which is some Italian set of dishes, china, and I have a beautiful teapot. I guess I should start making tea. But this color was just what I fell in love with, and it had this beautiful gold rim to it. I also have a collection of splatter that seems to keep showing up. Anything hand painted, I'm your girl. So finding plates that are kind of hand kilned and just hand painted, same but different, always looking for these fun things and collecting those throughout the years. And these beautiful things, I'm not sure what ever would have been used on a tablescape for them, but I put them out because I think they're so beautiful to look at. And somebody had a lot of love. They were monogrammed in gold with all different initials on them. And when I found them, I found one that had my son's initials on it. So I knew it was meant to be. And this is part of one side of the collection. Over here is the glasses, and again, I love finding things that just have that special wink and touch, anything vintage, and these were all from different places that I've gone and traveled and found little special glasses that fill up quite beautifully. And I love when you have the grills on a cabinet like this because you can really get such a fun peekaboo and see all your pretty things, which is exactly what I do every time I look through here. Being in the business of telling someone's life story, I think the foundation of an authentic home starts always with the people that live in the house. To respect a family, bring their story to life, whether it's talking about their travels in collections of art, photographs, books, objects that represent a moment in time, that represent the way that they felt. I often say I'm an emotional designer, and I think the commitment to the feeling of what a space provides is almost, to me, as important, if not the most important part of designing a room, creating a space, thinking about the people that are going to live in the space and feeling the authenticity of what that feeling should be when the people that live there get to be in those spaces. And I'm really committed to that part of the process, not only for myself, but for every client that I'm given the opportunity to create for them. I always talk about the powder room as the jewel box of a home. It's the place where everybody visits, and it's the only room that nobody has to live in. So I think it's the area that you can take a risk, get comfortably uncomfortable, and for me, nobody really had to sell me on that. This space was so, I knew from the day I started designing this home, I had fallen in love with the wallpaper that we had used on a client project. And I called the company and said, I love this, I have to have it, but you have to do it for me in my color, which is always coming back to green. And I was lucky enough to work with them on both the wallpaper and the fabric, coordinating into this kind of modern toile on toile idea that I had to kind of turn that traditional idea on its side. And one of the things I love the most is, again, my passion for art. It feels like it's a Miro painting on the walls. And we were able to recreate the same pattern in this moody green and black and layer it with some really fun art and a really beautiful custom vanity. So now I'm going to take you into the kitchen. If you had asked me if I was designing my dream house in 2019, what my priorities would have been, and you asked me again after 2020, I think a lot of us changed our mind about how we felt about the kitchen. I personally was forced to cook and learn how to cook because we were all stuck at home and there was not a lot of other options. But the kitchen became such an important space, not only for function, but design and beauty and how we were going to live as a family in here. So welcome to our galley kitchen. as we talk about with older homes, again, things were not designed in the same way years ago. So the structure of this kitchen was really how it existed. I just changed all the functionality of it to make it work for a young family and a family with all men that needed to eat a lot during the day and multiple times a day. So the viola countertops were my absolute non-negotiable. I knew I always wanted to have this kind of detail, and it took a good long while to find these slabs. But originally, this area was where the stove was, and it just didn't have any eat-in functionality in here. And one of the things we didn't get with this house was an eat-in kitchen, but I was able to convert this island to where we sit for family dinners, or the Feldman diner, as I call it, because I can easily serve dinner from this side of the island as we sit around it every night. But what we do have in here is the length, and one of my favorite things was this custom range that we were able to do in a really beautiful green color. I think you're seeing my patterns repeat themselves. Green is always showing up. And the green with the viola, some really fun details. The world of custom millwork has just gotten so much smarter, and areas like this where you can make it look like something and function like something else is always a thrill when you get to tuck those ideas into good design. One of the other things that I think is just so smart in kitchen design today is being able to have the chance to panel most of your appliances. I was really committed to giving us a family pantry, which tucked away pretty nicely into this cabinet here. Can't say it's my finest organizational moment, but you'll forgive me. And one of my favorite features, highest on my bucket list, was how large of a refrigerator could I get for my family? And to be able to have it paneled is just such a beautiful way to have all of the function of what you need and hidden behind the beauty of great doors and, of course, great hardware. On this side of the kitchen, not only regular functionality for everything, but to be able to have a little bit of balance between closed and open cabinetry. I always love playing with that kind of detail, and function being the most important thing to be able to get to your appliances. But this little area we kept open as a coffee bar, and I love how easy it is to get in and out of it. But my favorite feature, and this talks about knowing your patterns and your life patterns, is I never like seeing paper towel on the counter. So I said to my mill worker, how can we do something better so that I don't have to see the paper towels, or more importantly, when they run out all the time and my boys don't change it. But what we were able to do for this millwork was create a small little opening and put a rod inside the cabinet. It's actually super simple, and what you're able to get is a hidden paper towel holder, which I might be one of, if not the most proud design features that I was able to unlock. Good, bad, ugly. There's a lot of time spent in the laundry room, which for us, luckily, is right off of the kitchen. If you're gonna do laundry, you might as well make it beautiful. And I remember when I was speaking with my tile vendor, and she said, you're gonna put that kind of tile in the laundry room? And I said, if I'm gonna spend the time that I need to spend in the laundry room, I want the floor that I want. So we did a beautiful checkerboard marble in here, which I love, and it takes its wear and tear. We created a really beautiful custom color in here, which was a gray that kind of had a nod and a wink to a little green undertone. And I think this, which I think they call it brown sugar, is the name of this tile, which I thought was so fitting for just kind of having its moment right off the kitchen. But this is one of my favorite details in this room because I get to see it every day, and it's just this glossy, oversized tile that we were able to pattern in a beautiful box kind of weave pattern. I love to say I thought about these things so far in advance, but I remember the day the tiles got unboxed and I said, let's play. And I think I created the pattern as I was standing in front of it that day. And that's how you break the rules when it's your own house. And then things that I kept consistent, the same faucet that was in the kitchen showed up again in the laundry room for consistency, and just making all the details and the finishes kind of stay cohesive. But as we all know, I built this house for Frankie, so this is her area. And one of the things that I really thought about in terms of function, which was the reality to my everyday, was building in just the small details like this of dog food, having things be super easy to get to, and knowing your patterns of real life, which is feeding the dog twice a day and making sure that Frankie's always happy. The journey of decorating your own home, or I should say my truly first adult home for myself and my family, was a really interesting experience. I am a big rule follower, and I live by that, and Jenn Feldman Designs lives by the rules, and that is how we operate. For my own home, I think I was pretty committed to breaking the rules, and I really did it with the intent of pushing my creativity and my opportunity to do the things in a laboratory context that I wouldn't necessarily get the risk to do in client scenarios. So I toggled a lot between what I knew I wanted always and pushing the boundaries to making sure it was something that I had never done before for somebody else, whether it was a color on the wall or a fabric that we had used, and I wanted it but in a different way. And I think there's a real journey of your own psychology and philosophies coming to life in an experience that isn't really something you can plan how you're gonna feel about it. So I will happily say I made it to the other side, but it was quite a journey. Off the kitchen, really interconnected, is the family room. I say to everyone, and I am no different, if you are up and awake in your house, 90% of the time, a family lives in the kitchen and the family room. So this is for sure the hub of our house. Super important goal was to have an oversized sofa, and I did everything possible to get that to happen, including moving air vents on the floor, and this wall, which was originally a French door going outside. As great as that would have been, it was not giving me the family room sectional. So we converted that to a window, and as a result, I was able to get probably one of the largest sofas that we've made of recent days. And we just live in this room, and we live hard, and most of the time you'll find my younger son playing volleyball off of this couch, much to my craziness. I hear that ball going all the time. And of course, the chair that everybody loves to sit in, including Miss Frankie, which most of the time is where you'll find her perched. And then if you turn the corner and do a full 360 in here, one of the things that kept coming back into my brain as we would sit and watch football, whatever was happening, was I kept staring at this door, and it just was a door, and there was really nothing I could do about it. And one day I got an idea, and I called my mill worker and said, I've been thinking. And he said, Jen, you scare me when you've been thinking. And I said, I know, but I think you can handle this one. And I said, can you turn the door into a plate rack for me? And of course, anything's possible with good design. So I had this door remade to also be a plate rack, which gave me another thing to collect. It really took about 6 inches of depth to be able to make that happen. And this leads down to a California basement, which holds the air conditioning, and that's about it. So this is our plate wall door, and one of the first of its kind, and I love it, and I hope you do too. So now I'm going to take you upstairs to the bedrooms and a few fun surprises. So follow me. Okay, so welcome to the entryway into the primary bedroom part of the house. And I will tell you, when I first came and saw the house and this arched doorway was standing in front of me, and I said, this has to be original and no one is touching this. This was such a beautiful detail of something that you just don't see a ton of except in older houses, and I just loved it immediately. What is so fun about kind of coming into this area is this kind of whole entry walk-in vestibule. And I remember this piece I got at a vintage estate sale before we had even really started designing the house, and I think subconsciously I must have known that this was going to be its perfect landing spot. But one of the things I love about this is I was able to find a wall covering in this part of the room that's a little different than what I put into the primary bedroom space. And as you turn around here, and you can see kind of all of the beautiful details that were able to just kind of start to show up. This is usually where you find Frankie on her little window seat perch. And I was able to really put bookcases in again in this whole area here to just have all of our family photos and great things to display as you walk into the main area of the bedroom. This was a really fun and different kind of twist of the space. The bed was on the other side of the wall, and I think a lot of times, even for clients, we always talk about the rules and where you have to put a bed and where windows are, and sometimes you just got to break the rules because it's just the way that the space works better. So one of the things that we did was turn the whole bedroom orientation around, and the windows on the wall, and it's just where it is. But because I was able to turn it, I was able to create a really great seating area that most nights you'll find me watching or binging some shows, sitting on the couch, and really getting to use this room in a different capacity. I would say the color of these walls is like a sunset salmon. It's got a little pink undertone. It's really like a watercolored rust. And I was really connected to textural papers for this house, and you'll see that show up in a few of the other rooms, but it just adds a really beautiful texture without really overemphasizing color. But I kind of like to think of it as a little nod to a sunset before I go to bed every night. Now I'm going to take you into my favorite part of my home, which is the primary bathroom. This was classic renovation at its best. Everything that we were able to do in here was to really give beautiful updated materials, functionality, and just all the things coming together to create a really beautiful Zen bathroom. Always thinking about storage. So the bathroom has just some great features to it, and really lovely and calming, clean, simple, and timeless the way that I kind of always wanted it to stay. This is my favorite place where you'll find me most nights, either if I'm hiding from all of my boys or deciding that I need to actually get some work done while I'm home. But this is my cloffice, which is my version of a closet office. This was the addition we put onto the house to give that room for myself that I had been dreaming of and working really hard for myself to be able to find. And the special nod to this space was my grandmother's writing desk, which I had had in my family and been keeping for the perfect spot to be able to have it. And I just love that I feel like she's always with me, but that I get a beautiful place to sit. And one of the nods to her that I love is I kept her original upholstery on the backside of the cushion of her writing desk chair. And every now and then I just flip it over, but I get to have a little piece of her with me all the time. And this was her lamp that she had in her house as well. And I just made a new shade to kind of make it mine. But this is my cloffice, and this is where I love to find all of my beautiful things. So glad I could show you. I love that I feel differently about different areas of my home all the time. I think that exploration is still a really active part about how I feel about living here. I would say overall, I love the palette of my home and the way it makes me feel. I think in a place like California, We get beautiful sunshine and green grass and blue skies all year round. And I really wanted our home to have a mood and a feeling that had a seasonal Midwestern New York City feel, so that we could really move through our home in a way that I think we don't often get to move through seasons in a place like Los Angeles. A little moody, a little fresh, a little deeper with richer colors, and just kind of balancing all of that together. The word home means comfort. The word home means family, and the word home means authenticity to a space and a place in life that centers you and makes you feel safe. And I love that that's how I feel about my own home. And I love that I have given the opportunity to create that feeling for others.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.